Powers is suing her son's former friend, 21-year-old Brett Spielman, for slashing 3 tires on her car. Brett denies the charge.
All rise. Yes, case number 468 on the calendar in the matter of Powers versus Spielman. Powers have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Powers, this is your son?
Yes.
According to your complaint, your son and the defendant had been friends.
Correct.
They were out together one evening. There was a falling out. Later that evening, according to you, the defendant slashed 3 of the tires on your car.
Correct.
You want him to be responsible for replacing them. Mr. Spielman says he didn't do it. What's your first name?
Andrew.
How old are you, Andrew?
23.
How long do you know Mr. Spielman?
I've known Mr. Spielman since about the 7th grade.
On what night were you out together, the night that the tires were slashed?
I believe it was a Friday night. I don't remember the exact
Remember
date.
the night?
29th, I think.
29th of?
December.
Where had you been?
We were on our way to Randy White's brother-in-law's boss's house.
You were driving?
Yes, I was driving.
What happened in the car?
An argument started because Brett Spielman wanted to get some marijuana and everybody else in the car was against that. And
Where did he want to go to get the marijuana?
To his dealer's house.
And did you know where that was?
No, I did not.
Did he tell you where it was?
No, he did not.
Was it on the way?
I hadn't even agreed to it, so he didn't get to the point of telling me where it was
Well,
at.
tell me exactly what he said.
He said, I want to go get some pot. Can you take me? And I said, no, and nobody else in this car wants to do that. Can you please stop with that altogether?
How many other people were in the car?
2, besides me and Brett.
And who are they?
Randy White and Brandon, his brother-in-law, which I do not know his last name.
So what happened?
So I said no, and he started ranting and raving and basically turned it into an argument with Randy White, and they were going back and forth, and I didn't want to hear it anymore, so I said, please stop, because they didn't get along anyway. So it basically had turned into an argument with them, and I said...
Where was he sitting, in the front or the back?
He was sitting in the front seat, beside me.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we had arrived to Randy's boss's house. We had both got out of the car while Randy and his brother-in-law went upstairs. We were downstairs smoking a cigarette, and it was going to take a turn to get violent because he was saying threats and all this.
Against whom?
Against me.
Why was he threatening you? I thought he was having an argument with Randy.
The argument was with Randy, but I took involvement in it because Randy was a lot smaller than him, and I didn't want it to go there, so I stepped up in Randy's place, and then
And what did you say to him?
The focus came on me. I said, you need to stop all this right now or I'm going to make you walk home. And he said, you're not going to make me walk home, this and that.
Had he been drinking?
Have I been drinking?
Had he been drinking?
No, I do not think he had been drinking.
It was just nasty?
Yeah, he was just nasty with me.
Okay, keep going.
And then Randy and his brother-in-law had come back down, and we all got in the car, and I said, I'm going to make him walk home because he's just being too defiant for any of us to deal with.
What did he say when you told him he was going to walk home?
He got even worse, but...
Well, tell me what he said, Mr. Peck.
He was using a lot of cuss words, a lot of profanity, a lot of I'm going to everybody in that car, and just threats.
And that was on the 29th of December?
Yes.
What time?
I would say it was about 8 p.m.
Okay. Now let's fast forward a little bit, Ms. Powers. Tell me about the incident involving your tires. When did that take place?
Okay. December 30th.
What time?
I would say around shortly before 10, but not exactly. I don't know.
So tell me what happened.
Okay. It was a very, very stormy night. The wind was blowing and howling, and it was raining a lot. And the dog was circling the front door. And she was like yipping and barking, and she doesn't usually have that kind of behavior at all unless someone's at the door. But I opened the door and nobody was there. She kept doing it. So I opened the door again, and Mr. Spielman was standing on the other side of the car. My driveway comes up where the car is parked directly outside my front door, so I can clearly see it. And I said, what are you doing? Because it's kind of late to be coming over. And I thought he was coming to see my son, and just looked at me and took off.
Didn't say anything to you. Okay, keep going.
The next day I got up to go to work, and I, of course, didn't see the first tire because it was fine. Walked around the car and saw 1, 2, 3 tires flat. And so I called someone to come and take me to get new tires and called into work.
Okay, when did you see Andrew?
I saw him later that day.
Do you remember that day, Andrew?
Not too clearly. I remember her saying that 3 of my tires were slashed. Do you have any idea who would do it? And I said, I most certainly have an idea of who did it.
Well, I also asked...
Shut up!
Okay.
Don't speak. You said, I most certainly have an idea who did it.
Yes, regarding the incident.
And so you told your mother about the incident?
Yes.
And what did your mother say to you?
And then she said, I seen Brett in our driveway. I was thinking he would come up to give you, because at the time she didn't think I was enemies with Brett. And I said, well, that's who did it.
Okay. So when you said to her, I certainly do, and then she said to you, I saw
Brett in the driveway. And then we knew right there who it was.
Okay, good.
I just didn't think Brett would have done anything like that to me.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Spielman. Now I'm listening to you.
The statement's completely false.
Listen to me. Let's get to the car on the 29th of December.
Okay, cool. We were in the car.
Look at me. Don't look over there. You're in the car.
We are in the car. We do have a conflicting argument about something. Okay, marijuana. I do what I do on my time away from here.
Let's go slowly. You're in the car and you have an argument. You have an argument about what?
I really cannot even remember. Honestly, don't remember.
You just told me it was about marijuana.
If it was about marijuana, I'm saying I'm not denying that, because I do smoke marijuana on my pastime from time to time.
So that if Andrew says that the argument was about stopping to buy marijuana, that would be accurate.
It could have been, but it couldn't have been.
Well, if you don't remember, sir, then I have to credit Andrew's account of the evening of the 29th, because that would seem to be something that you would remember. Where do you live?
Sacramento.
And how far did you have to walk home?
I didn't walk home. See, that's where the story changes. He ended up giving me a ride home.
Did you ultimately give him a ride home?
No, I did not give him a ride home, Your Honor.
Okay. Did he threaten to leave you stranded?
Yes, he did, but it was raining pretty bad outside, so I kind of negotiated my way to get a ride home.
What do you mean you kind of negotiated?
Well, I said it's kind of raining out and I don't have a coat and the wood keep kind of messed up. I had to walk home.
You've known this family for a very long time. How old are you now?
21 years old.
Currently on probation?
Juvenile, almost off. I'm going National Guard about a month.
So the answer is yes, you're currently on probation. Mm-hmm. How long have you been on probation?
Since I was like 17.
Keep going.
Okay. Are we still on the 29th or are we going the 30th?
No, I'm past the 29th. I credit Mr. Geraldson's account of what happened on the 29th,
okay,
sir. I believe he told me the truth. I believe you had an argument starting with Randy, ending up with Andrew, about your desire to stop at the person who supplies you with marijuana, to get some marijuana, and they didn't want to do
anything,
it.
Though.
I'm speaking. And they didn't want to do it, and you became aggressive, and that's what the argument was about. So since you don't remember something that I probably would remember, but something that clearly you don't remember.
It was a year ago.
Well, I would remember, sir, a falling out that I had with a child.
He wasn't a very good friend. He always
Why don't
bickers.
you let me finish my statement, sir? Listen to the statement that I'm going to say to you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So is what you're telling me, sir, that you were together with your mother and the rest of your family?
Yes, I am.
And if I were to ask you, you would tell me that your son was home with you?
And later today,
Together off and on suggests to me that when it was off, it was because it wasn't good, right?
Yes.
Did you think having a baby was going to make it better?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 23-year-old Andrew Geraldson says his former friend, Brett Spielman, slashed 3 of his tires. Andrew claims his mother witnessed the incident.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Do you know what that means, Mr. Spielman?
Honestly, I do.
Tell me what it means.
It means if I know what happened, I don't have to remember. Look for the answer.
Right. That's what it means. So you're telling me it was over a year ago?
Over a year ago.
I'm speaking. And therefore, you can't quite remember everything that happened that evening. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So if you don't remember what happened on the evening of the 29th, which clearly, you're in a car with people, there's a big argument, it's raining very badly, you have to negotiate your way back to the car in order to get a ride home. These are all little smatterings of things that you remember, right? Little smatterings of things that you remember.
Yeah.
You don't remember all of it, but you remember little pieces of it.
Most of it.
You remember most of it. So the argument was about marijuana.
Yes, it was. I feel
Perfect.
so.
Now that your memory has been refreshed, why don't you tell me about the 30th?
The 30th?
Look at me.
The 30th? Well, my mom can vouch that I was with her.
I don't ask your mom to vouch for anything, sir. I'm asking you.
On the 30th, I was at my residence from 6 o'clock in the night, and I fell asleep on my couch with my entire family with a movie night. The night before New Year's Eve, my mom volunteers at a local social club she's involved in on New Year's Eve, so we always are together on most holidays and that night usually.
Well, just a minute. I don't understand something. Does your mother volunteer her time?
I'm
speaking!
What you want?
Does your mother volunteer her time at a social club, sir, so that she's not home on the 30th, so the rest of your family gets together? Is that what you're just telling me?
No, the night before we all stay together because we're going to be separated on New Year's Eve.
So is what you're telling me, sir, that you were together with your mother and the rest of your family?
Yes, I am.
And if I were to ask you, you would tell me that your son was home with you?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be unfortunate. That would be unfortunate.
I'm sorry.
I have a couple of questions for you. What does he do for a living?
He's going to the National Guard. He's been working.
So the answer is he doesn't do anything.
He's not working currently, no.
And he's not going to school?
No.
And how long have you permitted that circumstance?
He's only not worked a few months. He's going...
A few months is a very long time for somebody who's 21 years old and on probation. What did he do before a couple of months ago? Who did he work for?
A company called Prologics.
What kind of work did he do?
Warehouse work.
And why did he leave that job?
They merged with another company and downsized.
So he got fired?
Laid off.
How many
Taxpayer.
children? Did I ask you a question?
No, you didn't, but it's just making me sound worse than I am, you know? Be fair, too.
I don't mind being fair, sir, when people tell me the truth.
I'm honestly telling you the truth.
Oh, no, you're not. The sweat on your brow tells me you're not.
I'm on TV.
Did you see sweat there? Look. You see sweat there?
No.
There. Look at your mother. Is she sweating? You know why she's not sweating? Because I didn't ask her what happened on the 30th. That's why she's not sweating. If I asked her what happened on the 30th, I guarantee you she'd be, when I got finished with her, she'd be sweating. How much were the tires?
Our tires were popped, too.
I'm not asking you a question.
I have the invoice here.
Can I see it, please?
Excuse me, Judge.
Yes,
May I submit my receipt for towing?
absolutely. I'd like to see it, please. So between the towing and the tires, you have $394. Is that right?
Roughly, yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $394. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
You're lucky your probation wasn't violated.
He chose to act as a coward and slash my mom's tires.
A variety of his friends could have done it.
In the future, if he wants to give me back, he can give me back to my face.
We were not really friends anymore, kind of falling out.
I've always told my son if you lay down with dogs, you're going to get fleas. He was laying down with some dogs.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Haslam versus Orduña, step forward, please.
Elizabeth Haslam is suing her ex-boyfriend, Andy Orduña, for a laptop and cell phone bill.
Sazim, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant for a while and you loaned him your computer.
Yes, ma'am.
He failed to return it. You want the value of the laptop. And you also say that you put him on some cell phone plan and he didn't pay the bill. You had to take back the cell phone. There's a disconnect fee. You want him to pay for those charges.
Correct.
He says all of those things were gifts to him. So, when and why did you loan him your computer?
I loaned it to him when he went on a business trip past Bakersfield.
Why did he need your computer?
He was going to watch videos. I loaned him also my DVDs for it as well.
And when was he supposed to return it?
A week later, when he came back.
So what happened?
I guess supposedly he went and he was on his way back from the business trip and got pulled over and was arrested and put
What
in
were you
jail.
arrested for, sir?
I had a warrant, and it wasn't a business trip, actually. I went out for the day, and we went out to Glamis to go ride our motorcycles, so I don't know where she's coming out with saying that it was on a business trip.
She was trying to be kind to you.
Well, tell the truth. I mean, I went out with a bunch of friends, went out riding motorcycles, and we stayed the night out there.
What did you get arrested for?
I had a warrant for failure to appear.
Warrant? Failure to appear for what?
For a traffic ticket.
For traffic.
That's what I said, yep.
And how long were you in jail, sir?
Like 45 days.
45 days for a traffic ticket.
Yep.
How old do I look to you?
How do you look?
I'm asking you, how old do I look?
50?
Perfect. I'll take it. Listen to me. I've been on the bench for years. Nobody goes to jail for 45 days for a traffic ticket.
Well, I had a traffic ticket for a warrant and stuff. And I had
Nobody goes to jail for 45 days, sir, for a traffic ticket. I won't press you further.
Okay.
Suffice it to say, more than a traffic ticket. Now, what happened to her computer?
Well, I had a warrant, so they kept me there, and I left it in my friend's truck. When I came out of jail, I found out he had gotten into some trouble, and he wasn't nowhere to be found no more. So I thought about it, okay, it was a gift. She gave it to me, so...
Well, tell me how it came about that she gave it to you, Mr. Orduña.
Because we were going out and stuff, and she told me that her husband had gave her this laptop, and that she didn't want nothing to remember her by her husband, so she had gave me her laptop.
That's a lie.
That's not a lie, because you had told me yourself.
Just a second.
She had
You
told
mean
me.
she didn't want to have any sentimental attachment to this laptop?
Yeah, exactly.
After he came out of jail, Miss Hazem,
I asked him where my laptop was.
and he said,
He said it was in George's truck, which was the friend he got busted with.
you mean while he was in jail for this 45 days, month and a half, you didn't inquire as to where the laptop was?
Oh, yes, I visited him every weekend.
Well, if
and
you
I
visited
asked
him every weekend, why didn't you go and get the laptop before?
I didn't know this guy.
Well, why didn't you ask where he was?
He didn't know. I asked.
It never came up.
Just
It
a
never
second.
happened.
Just a second. So every weekend you would go to visit him in jail and you questioned him about the computer. But when he got out of jail, you took him back.
Stupidity.
Oh. When he came out of jail, you took him back. And not only did you take him back when he came out of jail without your computer, but then we get to the second part of your lawsuit, the cell phone part.
Yes, ma'am.
So when did you get him this cell phone?
In July of '06.
July of '06, and between March of '06, when you loaned him the computer, and July of '06, what'd you do without this computer?
I continued to ask for it.
Did you continue to live with him?
No, we'd never lived together.
Did you continue to have intimate relations with him?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to live together to have intimate relations with him. As a matter of fact, sometimes it helps the relations if you don't live together, right? I didn't say that.
I didn't hear it.
Good. Neither did anybody else, I hope. Why didn't you tell him that he didn't need a cell phone? What he needed to do was get some money to pay for your laptop.
I should have.
Yeah, sure. So what are you bothering me now for, Miss Hazel? Now that it's over, either you left or he left. Who left?
I did.
Because you got fed up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would have gotten fed up a long time before, but it took you that long. Why are you bothering the courts now? You made two mistakes. You let him use your computer. If you said to me, I loaned him the computer because he was such a deadbeat and a lowlife, he had no interest in securing my computer. Not you. You go to visit him every weekend in jail, he comes out, you still engage in an intimate relationship with him, you buy him a cell phone, you pay the bills, and then when you've had it with him, why did you have it with him?
Because I couldn't take any more lies. I couldn't take any more of the fact that he wouldn't give me my rightful belongings.
Rightful belongings had nothing to do with it. It has to do with emotions. It had nothing to do with rightful belongings. Why did you separate, Mr. Orduña?
Because I think she wanted to go back to her husband. She was with her husband when she was with me, too. And she was just trying to find more security, I guess. And
she was trying to find security with you?
With me or her husband, whoever she could find it. But obviously she didn't find it with me.
Are you and your husband back together again?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Move on.
Yes.
He's over. He's finito. He's finished. Done. Do you have the cell phone back? He doesn't have it back.
No, I don't even have the cell
Where
phone.
is it?
I guess he has it.
Where's the cell phone?
I don't have the cell phone. And I told her that I didn't have no money to pay for it. And she said, don't worry about it. I want to be able to talk to you because I was staying in a sober living house. And she wanted to be able to get a hold of me.
You were living in a sober living house?
Yes, I was.
Why, were you a drinker?
No, I had some drugs I had got caught with a while back.
That had nothing to do with the warrant, right?
Part of it.
So it wasn't just a traffic ticket?
Well, it was...
Mr. Orduña. Ms. Hazem, move on. You're back with your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. Step out. Case is dismissed.
Thank you. Step out, please.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Detweiler versus Atkinson. Step forward, please.
Deborah Detweiler is suing her former friend, Gary Atkinson, for a loan to buy a home.
Ms. Detweiler, you and the defendant were, according to you, friends.
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time when Mr. Atkinson was buying a new house, and it is your claim that you loaned him $5,000 with the understanding that he was going to pay you back.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Atkinson says nothing could be farther from the truth. While he acknowledges that you got the cashier's check, he gave you the cash in order to get the cashier's check, so that you were merely just performing a ministerial act by going to the bank and getting this cashier's check as a favor, but the money actually was his. Tell me what happened when you were in a position to loan him $5,000.
Okay. I had recently sold my mobile home to my ex-husband and his new wife, and he said that...
How much did you sell it for?
I sold it for $10,000.
How did he know that you had $10,000 in the bank?
We became friends. Also, I was going through a breakup with my boyfriend, and him and my ex-boyfriend were talking back and forth, and I don't know what was being said, but I know that somehow he found out that I had this money in the bank. My boyfriend evidently had told him.
So he said to you, can you loan me? Come on, I own you the loan.
He said that he wanted to buy a $250,000 home. He was having a hard time getting hold of his daughter, Angel, because she takes care of all of his banking for him, and he needed $5,000 in order to put down on this property. I said, well, I've got the money in the bank, but you have to promise me that you'll pay it back.
So?
So I went to the bank. I wrote a check out. I've got a copy of the check that come out of my bank, the $5,000.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
See where it came out of your bank? Shh, just a second. Let me see where it came out of your bank. Go ahead.
Okay, I loaned him money, and then I wrote out a promissory note asking, because he said he promised to pay me the money back, and he refused to sign the promissory note. So,
okay, I will hear you, sir.
Your Honor, I dispute that. I have from Wachovia Bank a copy of the microfilm which shows a completely different description on the memo, where she's indicating she loaned this money. I initially made arrangements.
All I want to see from you, Mr. Atkinson, is very, very simple, sir. All I want to see from you is a withdrawal from your bank, $5,000, on or about August 23rd.
I have that, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. No, sir, that's not what I'm talking about. This is a letter. I don't take letters and
Yes, ma'am.
evidence. I take bank records, which I assume you have, because you knew you were coming to court today. This you can take and throw in the garbage. What I need is your bank statements. That's all I have to see. That I know that you gave her the money and asked her to go and buy this certified check, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Show me the bank records.
Your Honor, I do not have the actual bank statement. However,
Well,
I do have...
Sir, let me tell you something. If you don't have the bank statements, then you don't have evidence, because this is trash. That you can get by stealing a piece of stationery or having a friend at the bank write that letter for you. Bank records. Why are you looking at me like a deer in headlights, sir? Am I speaking a foreign tongue? Bank records.
I do have two witnesses, Your Honor,
I'm not
that was
interested
there.
in witnesses. I'm interested in your bank records.
I do not have the bank
Why
records,
not?
just the document from the
Why?
bank.
No, you have no document from the bank. What you have is in the garbage, sir. You have a savings account. You had money transferred into SunTrust Bank according to this piece of garbage. Then you should have records. That's what records show. And you don't have it.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step out.
Parties are
You're a liar, sir. I don't like liars.
thank you very much.
Once again, the plaintiff uses someone to get what she wants.
I hope every man, woman, and truck driver out there is watching so they can see what a liar and a con artist he actually is.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Doucette versus Willis.
Richard Doucette is suing his former friend, 25-year-old Jolene Willis, for several loans to get back on her feet. Jolene claims Richard was trying to buy her affections.
Mr. Doucette, Miss Willis was a friend of yours who you allowed to move in with you because she needed a place to stay. And it was a platonic relationship. She, I think, stayed on the couch.
Yes, I did.
And you claim that while she was living with you, you made a series of loans to her. You want your money back. Miss Willis says that you gave her money because you were hoping that you would have more than a platonic relationship with her. When that turned out not to be the case, you became irritated, told her to leave. She says that there was never a loan arrangement. She's counterclaiming because she says that you refused to return some of her property when you put her out. That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
How do you know him?
A couple years ago, I bartended at a bar, Champs. He came in there, played pool, and I started then playing on his 9-ball pool league.
On his pool league?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And we became friends for a couple years. And I moved to Pennsylvania, and when I returned, he offered to let me stay on his couch.
Well, you must have called him.
Yes, I talked to him. We are friends. I started playing on his pool league again.
And you asked him if you could move in?
Yes.
When was that?
Mid-November of 2005.
How long did you stay?
Till he kicked me out, early March 2006.
Mr. Doucette, why did you wait a year to sue her for money?
I want to give her the opportunity to get a job and pay me back.
Did she say she was going to pay you back?
As soon as she got a job, she was going to start paying me back.
You put her out in March?
I'm not sure of the date.
She says it was March.
I was early 2006.
Why did you put her out?
Because she wasn't making enough effort to look for work, and I just got tired of being a friend and loaning her money and doing all kinds of things for her, and I could see there was no end to it, so I just cut my losses and
And you told her to leave?
Yes.
When did she say she was going to get a job and pay you back? Was it before you put her out or after?
Oh, when she moved in. The agreement was that she was going to live with me until she get back on her feet, get a job, and then she would pay me back whatever she owed me.
But when you kicked her out, Mr. Doucette, you knew that she wasn't going to pay you back.
I had hopes that she would find a job and eventually pay me back.
What contact did you have with her between March, when you put her out, and the time you filed this lawsuit?
There was a 9-ball pool league that we were in, and then after she left that abruptly, I haven't had any contact with her.
So my question still is, why did it take you a year, virtually no contact with her, to sue her?
Because after 12 months, I realized that I'd better get a lawsuit against her to protect my interest.
How much money did you give her in total?
About $1,900.
You have receipts for it?
I do.
I'd like to see them, please. You have an Acura?
I used to.
And he paid some of it?
He paid off a couple of my tickets and court fines and registration and smog and oil changes. And
What about your
gas.
T-Mobile?
He paid for my phone bill as well to get in contact with me all the time.
And you bought her a new cell phone?
Yes, because the T-Mobile bill never got paid in final.
Okay. T-Mobile bills, traffic tickets paid with cash, smog testing, car repairs, gas, T-Mobile. Okay, you paid all of her bills.
Yes, I did.
Okay, go ahead. I'm prepared to hear you, Miss Willis.
On top of all that, he bought my makeup, bought my cigarettes.
Yeah, you didn't have any money. You weren't working.
No.
Why weren't you working?
I was looking for work at the time.
You weren't looking too hard. 4 months.
Well, I had somebody taking care of all my bills. I was really...
You were really what?
Really looking really hard for a job. But there was
course.
never any agreement on any repaying of anything. It was in hopes of having a relationship with me. So he kind of tried to buy me, and I kind of let him.
I believe you. What do you think of that? I mean, it doesn't make you a nice person.
Well,
it doesn't make you a nice person.
I went out to dinner with him. I gave him my company. I did his laundry, cleaned his house, changed his bird cage. You know, I did things for him. And really, he just wanted my company. He's lonely.
How often did you go out for dinner together?
We only went out a few times, but I did play on his pool league 3 nights a week.
Did you have dinner together in the evening?
Occasionally, not all the time. No, we didn't have a relationship.
No, I understand you didn't have a relationship.
She was just like a renter.
She wasn't a renter. Renter pays rent.
True. Then I don't know what to call her, or call the relationship.
You called a relationship. I hope it's more.
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't get it, Mr. Doucette, quite frankly. I mean, I don't get it. If you start lending money to somebody and they don't pay you back, and they're not doing anything to get a job, it doesn't take you 4 months to figure that out.
It did in my case. Because I had hopes that she would go out and get a job.
You had hopes that she would come to a different relationship with you.
No, that is totally false. That is totally false.
Mr. Doucette, I am not moved by the fact that this was considered a loan by you. If it was, wouldn't it have taken you a year to come to court, to come forward? I don't know, quite frankly, what provoked you to come forward now. I don't know. Did something happen?
Yeah, 12 months went by.
Other than 12 months.
I had a baby.
When did you find out she had the baby?
Probably early January.
And that's when you filed your small claims case?
I believe so.
Thank you. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She wasn't making any effort to find a job.
He wanted a further relationship with me.
She was just laying around.
You know, saying I didn't have to sleep on the couch, I could sleep in his bed. And
as I stated, I just figured a year.
I feel a little bad.
I'm out $2,000 is the most frustrating thing.
He's out $2,000, but he offered.
Well, we don't even talk to each other, nor do I want to.
So I really don't feel that bad.
He and Lewis Walker are suing their former tenant, 25-year-old Carrie Weir, for 2 months' rent, the destruction of property, and harassment.
All rise. Now, this is case number 103 on the calendar in the matter of Walker versus Weir. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Walker, are you concerned about your appearance here today?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
You had the look of a man who had a little bit of a guilty look on his face, sir, when I walked out here. Because the problem that was created here, Mr. Walker, was a problem that was created really because of you. From what I gather, You had a rental property, and you rented that property to the defendant. You rented that property to the defendant without your wife knowing about it initially. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this was not a stranger to you or to your wife. I mean, you knew who she was, because your wife clearly wasn't happy that you rented an apartment to her. So far, is that correct, Miss Walker?
Yes.
Now, what was it about Miss Weir that you didn't like?
My previous dealings with her. She just wasn't somebody I wanted to live in my house.
What kind of rental property is this?
It's a studio apartment.
Do you live in the same building?
No, I live next door.
How long have you known her?
I met her, I believe, 4 years ago.
How does your husband know her?
Through acquaintances, I believe.
How did you rent the apartment to Miss Weir, sir?
She was referred to me by a friend.
You contacted Mr. Walker?
Yes.
And said you needed an apartment?
Yes.
And he said?
He had a studio apartment for rent. The people had not quite moved out yet, but he went ahead and showed it to me anyway.
Did you know that your wife was not crazy about Miss Weir?
Not at the time, I didn't know.
What happened, sir, when you told your wife about the new tenant?
She said that she did not want her living there and requested that we ask her to move.
You moved in when?
About the 19th of December.
And when did you find out that she moved in?
While she was moving in.
While?
Yes, I seen her go in.
Well, when you saw her moving in, you said, what are you doing here?
No.
What happened?
I went to him.
Ah. And what did you say to him?
I told him I did not want her to live in my house.
So you told him to get her out?
Exactly.
And what did he say to you?
No.
Did he say why?
Because she had a good job, and he trusted the lady that referred her to him.
How long have you two been married?
For 6 years.
So your wife said get her out, and you said no, she's got a good job, not getting her out.
Figured I'd give her a chance, yes.
Well, you did. She wasn't happy. So what did you do?
I let it be.
Now, your complaint is that she moved out owing you rent, she caused damage to the apartment, and she harassed you. Miss Weir says that you were the one who harassed her. She wants her security deposit back, and she wants her moving expenses back because it was because of your harassment that she was forced to move. That's your counterclaim.
Yes, that's correct.
When did you move?
I actually moved on February the 7th.
Did you pay December's rent?
No.
Yes.
Yes, I paid December's rent.
Shh. Pay attention.
Okay. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Paid December's rent.
Yes.
Did you pay January's rent?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Tell me why.
After Miss Walker had come to my home and threatened me in front of my daughter, I spoke with Lewis over the phone. He said he would take care of Lacey. He would make sure that would not happen no more. I received a lease a month after I rented the apartment, and everything was exactly different than what he had agreed to verbally with me.
So you moved in without a written lease having been signed?
Right.
Why is that, sir?
We hadn't gotten to it. I was at my shop, and I was working. She'd come and given me money, and I told her that I would get the lease written out and get it to her.
Not the way to do business, Mr. Walker. She needs a lease. Till you have a lease, you have no agreement. She's a month-to-month tenant. She doesn't have to give you any notice. Now, how much money did she give you in December, sir?
$675. $475 for the rent, $200 for the deposit.
Your Honor.
Shh.
I'm sorry.
That was December, when she was moving in.
Yes.
Yes.
The deposit was actually $400, and he agreed to let me work the other $200 off because a previous tenant had left the apartment with furniture.
Just a minute. You gave him $475 for rent.
Right.
$200 in cash.
Right.
And the other $200 you say that he allowed you to work off.
Right.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And you moved out February 7th.
Yes. However, I wasn't able to stay there due to them turning off the electricity and the water for 2 weeks before that.
When did they turn off the electricity and water?
Lacey had the water disconnected on the 31st.
Of what?
January. And the electricity as well.
But you had not paid any rent whatsoever for January.
No.
So you lived there for 4 weeks, rent-free. You have no right to cut off water and electricity. You understand that?
Yes, I do. I just figured since she didn't pay rent is in my name, I shut it off. It's
Well, you can't do that. You know you can't do that. You were told you couldn't do that, right?
No, we were not told. We were not told we couldn't do that.
I'm telling you you can't do that. She certainly doesn't owe you any money for the 7 days in February that she may have stayed there, had her stuff there, because the place was uninhabitable owing to what you did. Did you give her back her deposit?
No, that is for the cleaning that comes afterwards.
No, it's not. That's for damage to the apartment, not for cleaning.
Okay.
You have pictures of the damage to the apartment?
No.
Good. So, from the $475 a month rent that you didn't pay for January, I am deducting her $400 deposit. Anything else you want to tell me? So far, she owes you $75.
Well, since she lived in my house using my utilities under my name, is she responsible for that bill she racked up on me?
No.
She's not.
No. She's going to tell me that the $475 included utilities. You didn't want her there.
I didn't.
And she's not there. Next time you rent to a lady, I would check with my wife, Mr. Walker. Now, you have a counterclaim for your moving expenses and harassment. Your harassment is that she turned off the electricity and she turned off the water. Now, I've already told her she's not permitted by law to do that, okay?
Okay.
I do have a certain amount of sympathy since you had not paid rent for the entire month. So I want you to forget that as a cause of action for harassment. What else?
I have police reports where she's threatened me in front of my daughter. She came to out on her porch and threatened me.
When? Give me the date.
On the 29th.
Of?
January.
Hadn't paid rent a whole month at that point.
But I feel like I had to move because of them.
Who's this friend that we're talking about here?
She's not my friend any longer, my ex-friend. I believe that this friend and Mr. Lewis had a relationship going on.
And that's why
I believe that's what
Mrs.
started
Walker was
all this.
angry?
Yes, I believe that's what started all of this.
That is not true.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
You're supposed to come prepared. Out! Go! What do they think they're supposed to do when they come to court to prepare? Pick out clothes?
For some, that's the extent of it.
A piece of paper would be nice.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lacey and Lewis Walker claim former tenant Carrie Weir owes for rent, repair bills, and harassment. Carrie is countersuing for the return of her deposit, moving expenses, and harassment.
Okay, well, you told the police, Miss Walker, that you didn't like her, you didn't want her there, you wanted her to move out, she had been telling lies about your husband and threatening you, you wanted her out.
Exactly.
Okay, so now you're out, right?
Yes, I am
You
out.
moved someplace else, are you happy?
I'm happy. I'm out a lot of money, but I'm happy.
Why are you out of a lot of money?
I had to put another first month's rent, a deposit.
Well, you have to pay rent anyway. So far, you don't have to pay any more rent here. You owe only $75.
But I was there for a month. That put a lot of extra strain on me.
Happens.
You're right, it does.
It was not a good mix.
No, not at all.
Not a good three-way mix. Maybe four.
At this time, I didn't even know who Lacey was.
Well, when you found out, that was a big problem. And I certainly think that she acted inappropriately. I have no idea whether or not you caused any damage to the apartment. I somehow doubt it. Mr. Walker, very good lesson for you. When somebody moves in, before they move in, they sign a lease. You don't take any money from them until the lease is signed. You don't get busy doing something else and then present a lease with terms somewhat different from the ones you had discussed orally. All that is not a good thing. Do you understand?
Yeah, she knew.
Don't tell me what she knew. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $75. That's what you're entitled to. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, you can't help some people. That's what I feel about this incident.
She's a squatter. She's a mooch.
Mr. Walker here likes to have affairs on his wife.
She does everything in her way to break up a happy home.
Carrie's not never seen me with anybody in any kind of sexual content.
I just think they're vindictive people.
She just was a very hateful lady.
Don't trust your friends.
Welsh is suing her daughter, Tanika Mulicki, and her husband, Dana, for a loan to buy Christmas presents for their children.
All rise.
Guys, this is case number 106 on the calendar in the matter of Welsh versus Mulicki. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Welch, this is your daughter, and it is your claim that you extended a loan to your daughter and her husband when they needed some money. You had an agreement with them that they would pay you back that money at the rate of $25 per paycheck from you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And they paid you back some, then you had an argument, and there were no further payments on the loan. And your daughter says that they did, in fact, one time take a loan from you. They've paid you back in full, and she has no idea of what you're talking about with this other loan of $2,100. Is that right? When was the last time you took a loan from your mom?
Christmas of 2004.
How much was it for?
I can't really tell you an amount because I never received the receipts.
I don't care whether you received receipts.
I was with her when she bought the stuff. You know, and
explain that to me. You were out shopping?
Correct. Every year, my mother and I went shopping the day after Thanksgiving. We would go through the ads on Thanksgiving Day and decide what we might want to buy our children for Christmas. And we would discuss what Christmas presents she would put on her credit card that my husband and I would pay for later. But I know for a fact it did not total $2,100.
Is this the loan you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. I have my credit card statements.
Can I see them, please? Okay. What was purchased at Steve and Barry's? What kind of store is that?
It's a clothing store, and it was clothes for Dana and Trevor.
And what was purchased at Nebraska Furniture?
We had gone there and we had purchased DVDs that were on sale and some other little things.
Toys R Us in Omaha.
That would be mine.
Radio Shack.
That's mine.
There is also a bill here for $288 for Shopko in October. Do you know what that is?
It's for 2 Christmas presents for my son and my stepdaughter.
How much did you pay back?
Out of his check, we've paid back $575 just from his paycheck. And then also in February of 2005, I had received my income tax check, and I had borrowed $25 from my mother. And when I received my income tax check, I deposited $25 plus $200 into her account at that same bank.
Did she deposit $225 into one of your accounts?
Yes, she did.
So then it's
25 of it was for the 25 that I gave her.
Fine, so that's
the other
200.
200 was a $200 toward their car payment because they had not given me the car payment.
Why do they give you their car payment?
Because it's in my name and I want to
Why?
make sure it gets paid.
Why is it in your name?
Because they don't have good credit.
But Your Honor,
are you paying for the car, by the way?
Yes, I have never
Your
missed
Honor,
a payment.
They did not pay me $375. I have the receipt.
$575.
No, they did not. They gave me $300 out of his paycheck.
You have proof
and that's
that you
all.
paid her, shh. You have proof that you paid her $575 out of your paycheck?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it, please?
I have the deposits right here. All they paid me through deposits into my account was $300.
You may say that, madam, but this amount comes up to $575.
Your Honor, we're talking about Christmas presents purchased in 2004.
Miss Welch, I want to tell you something, madam. It's difficult enough to try to ferret out non-familial lawsuits when there are loans. When there's family and you have complicated your financial structure with your children, as far as some are car loans, this is a Christmas loan, you don't expect the courts in this country to waste their time ferreting that out because you had a fight with your daughter. That's not going to happen.
The fight with my daughter, Your Honor, is because of them neglecting their children.
Miss Welch, what I'm telling you is courts are not going to do that. This court is not going to do that. I will take a look at your bills and try to make a judgment as to overall how much of this money was paid back. But if you expect me to go week by week and figure out how much of the $25 went into your bank and how much maybe went into a loan for a car and how much went, just listen to me, it's not going to happen. And if what you're telling me is that the fight with your daughter was precipitated by the fact that you felt as if they were not doing the right thing with their children, I'm telling you that you got to take your nose out of her business.
Leaving their children home alone at night for 10 hours?
Miss Welch, what I'm telling you is you have to take your nose out of their business. And if you feel as if your grandchildren, because of the neglect of their parents, are legitimately at risk, and you've said to your daughter, I don't think it's a great idea to leave the kids home alone. Not a great idea. And she doesn't listen to you, and you have a substantial and legitimate concern about your grandchildren, you call Child Protective Services and let them do an investigation. And the only way you keep your mother's nose out of your business is to not take money from her. How many children do you have?
We have 5 children, Your Honor.
You have 5 children. So you're mature enough to have 5 children. Mm-hmm. I assume that if you couldn't take care of them, then you wouldn't have had them, because that would have been irresponsible, right?
Correct.
But you can't take care of them because you have to keep borrowing money from your mother, which means that you didn't have enough money to have 5 children. So that's irresponsible. If you can't support 5 children, you don't have 5 children. But once you take money from your mother because you're irresponsible, then she feels as if she has the right to say to you, you're not acting responsibly with my grandchildren. But the fact is, you weren't responsible because you had too many children that you couldn't take care of. You say no, I'm saying yes. You're standing there, you look like an idiot. And what you've done is you've taken a relationship that was a good one, and if your mother said to you, I don't like my grandchildren staying home alone. How old is the oldest child?
12.
And how old is the youngest child?
She's 2.
A 12-year-old cannot watch a 2-year-old.
My 12-year-old doesn't watch my 2-year-old. My 2-year-old's in daycare.
We're talking about when the children were home by themselves.
They weren't home alone at night. We actually took our children to his mother's every single night and picked them up every single morning.
Did you ever
before
tell your
school.
mother that the children were going to be home alone?
No.
She deducted that herself, ma'am.
She came up to that conclusion on her own.
No, they told me that on the night after Thanksgiving when Dana made it my business that he was going on nights the 1st of December. I said, who's going to take care of the kids? We're leaving them alone because Dana can come home from work every hour and check on them.
Okay. I want to tell you that that's wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. Because if Child Protective Services came 5 minutes after she left and found the 12-year-old in charge of 3 children, they would remove all the children from the house.
Well, they haven't let me see the kids since.
Okay. Well, that's a tragedy. So I'm going to tell you this. The only relationship that you can count on forever is hers.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I gathered that for a long time things were very good. Now you're saying no.
No.
She's an idiot. Unfortunately, she's your idiot.
And later today,
Here's one hole in the wall Dana did. Here's the hole Dana put in the wall when they were really fighting one day. I would get in the middle of it so Whitney
Just a second.
Oh, I would never get punched.
real case. Bridget Welsh says her daughter and son-in-law owe for unpaid loans. Tanika and Dana Mulicki are countersuing for the return of Tanika's engagement ring and harassment.
Listen, she's dumb as this. Unfortunately, Miss Welch, in this country, and I say unfortunately from the bottom of my heart, the Supreme Court has not taken a positive position with regard to whether grandparents have the right to seek visitation with their grandchildren if their children are denying them visitation. If I were the queen of the universe and running the world, it would be different. It would be different because dumb ones like this don't appreciate the fact that children need the widest possible community of love and affection. And even if you're not getting along with your mother, that doesn't mean that you cut your children off from a grandmother who was, for most of their lives, a positive influence. I gathered that for a long time things were very good. No, you're saying no.
No.
She's an idiot. Unfortunately, she's your idiot.
Ma'am.
Unfortunately, she's your idiot. You can't tell me things weren't good, madam, because then you would be a taker. Because then when you say to me, I would go shopping with my mother the day after, put your hand down, the day after Thanksgiving every year, that suggests to me that you had an ongoing relationship with your mother. Now you say no.
It was an off and on relationship.
It may have been off and on for you.
And it was off and on for her. She would tell me numerous times to stay out of her life. You're dead to me. You don't have a mother. She told my 12-year-old.
Miss Welch,
She told my
Miss Welch, listen to me. She's doing revisionist history because you're not paying attention. My statement to you is, I don't care what kind of relationship you have with your mother, and I don't care whether your husband has a good relationship with her either. What I'm saying to you is, if you are a good and loving parent, you don't cut your children off from their grandmother.
My son cut himself off from her.
All right,
my
good.
son
Listen,
is 12 years
listen
old
to
and
me.
understands.
Listen to me. I think that they still owe you $1,400, and that's what you're going to get as a result of this lawsuit. Now, you have some property that they say belongs to them. What property?
She's got an engagement ring that was given to me from my ex-boyfriend, who is my son's father.
Do you have an engagement ring that belongs to her?
That ring was given to me, Your Honor, for a loan that I made her.
Listen to me. Listen to me. She wants it back. I don't know why he wants it in his house. He doesn't. But she wants it back.
She also has his Nintendo 64 that we can't replace.
son's Nintendo.
My son's that we bought him personally for his birthday.
What was it doing in her house?
He took it there to play it when he'd go to her house because she doesn't have... She lives in an area where he can't just go outside and play with friends. She won't allow him to go outside and play with the neighbor kids because she says everybody uses drugs in
just
the
a second.
area.
So you allowed this child, your son, to take his Nintendo 64 game to your mother's house because he spent time there. I'm speaking. Answer the question.
Yes.
Listen, she's limited. It's not my fault she's limited, and maybe it's not your fault. The Nintendo 64 game, listen to me.
Trevor gave that to me, Your Honor, to keep at my house because he'd got an Xbox and I had also purchased him a PS2.
Listen to me very carefully, Miss Welch. The ring and the Nintendo 64 game up to be placed in a box, mailed back to them, and your check for $1,400 will be held until it gets back to them. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The final straw was when she told my 12-year-old, I'm dead to you and you do not have a grandmother.
My oldest said until she changes and changes her attitude, he doesn't want anything to do with her.
I just hope that the Lord takes care of my grandkids.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Stanhope versus Sayers. Step forward, please.
Donna Stanhope is suing the parents of her son's friend, Vicky and Ray Sayers, for the return of restitution money they fraudulently accepted.
Mrs. Stanhope, this is your son.
Yes.
According to your complaint, your son and the Sayers' son were friends. Your son was visiting the Sayers' home and at some point asked Mrs. Sayers if he could use her computer and her pen pal account to purchase something that he wanted, and he would give her the cash. Now, I don't understand all this stuff about buying things with pen pal and computers, because what?
PayPal.
Pen pal, PayPal.
PayPal.
I don't understand that all this stuff. You know, I go into a store and purchase something, and I see it, and I give them cash, and then they give me what I purchased. But I know a lot of people do that PayPal stuff. Anyway, you said it was okay, and you purchased something. What did you purchase?
A power level for a video game.
And how much was it?
$49.95, somewhere around there.
And you got the money, and you gave it to Miss Sayers.
Yes.
But at the same time, you purchased something else, or attempted to purchase something else that you didn't give her money for. That was $400. And according to you, as soon as you logged in on it, you had second thoughts, so you canceled the transaction. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he did. He says he canceled it.
This was a different purchase altogether that we discovered later for $19.95.
Now, I don't understand. How many purchases were made altogether?
Well, 3 total. The one we gave him permission for.
Yes, and the one he paid you for.
That he paid us for.
Right.
On my debit card.
Yes.
And 2 on my husband's debit card.
Totaling what?
One for $19.95 and one for $399.99.
When did you find out about it?
We went on a camping trip 2 days after the initial $19.95.
When was that?
He made that on August 28th. We left 2 days later.
Did you know about it on August 28th?
No, we did not.
Go ahead.
This put my husband's account into overdraft.
When was the $400 purchase made?
A week later on...
Is that right, sir?
On September 4th.
So you used that account fraudulently twice.
I don't know where the $19.99 came from.
You never bought anything for $19.99?
I don't remember purchasing.
Well, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Okay. Go ahead.
When we came back from our camping trip, the boys were together that day that he made the $3.99 purchase. And
what's your name?
Eloy.
Stand up. Did you know anything about this $399 purchase?
No, I did not know until he came to us and told us about it.
And when did he do that?
Well, we discovered it, and my mom talked to his mom, and then he came over later that night, apologized.
Sit down. So you didn't fess up to this until she called your mother, is that right?
After she came over and my mom talked to me about it.
When had you canceled that purchase for $399?
Almost 2 minutes after I purchased it.
Was it canceled the same day?
Yes, it was.
And he told you that?
Yes.
Did you confirm that with PayPal?
Yes, I did.
On what date?
The day that I found out that when all of this had happened. The purchase was made on a Monday, and I found out about it that Thursday.
So 3 days?
Correct.
But he had canceled the amount, so it wasn't charged to you.
Correct.
So this lawsuit says that Ms. Stanhope gave you $400.
Correct.
She wants that money back because you're not out $400. And your defense is, well, you're entitled to that $400 for your inconvenience.
We are out $400 on overdraft fees from the initial $19.95 purchase he made that first day.
Just a second. You had $400 in overdraft fees? Show me.
There were $33 overdraft fees, 2 returned check fees.
Well, how much was it altogether?
It all totaled up to $564.
Show me. There was a credit card purchase for Steam games.
That was the $19.95 purchase.
What did you purchase for $19.95, sir?
I don't know where that purchase came from. I don't remember ever purchasing something that was $19.95.
How do you know he purchased something for $19.95?
Because we do not have a PayPal account on that credit card. We only have it on my debit card. He set up a PayPal account on that credit Eloy
card. Purchase something for $19.95?
We don't have a PayPal account on that credit card.
And you do?
Has it under Raymond Duffield.
And you do?
I did, but I don't have the account anymore.
And you did. Were you punished? How?
Pretty much everything taken away from me for about 2 months.
Yeah, because that's, you know, I mean, you canceled the charge, but it was stealing.
Yeah.
For that couple of minutes before you came to your senses, it was stealing. And you tend to put all their accounts into some jeopardy. You could have, at least. Because
Yeah.
if banks can charge $33, they certainly can throw somebody's credit into all kinds of havoc just because you act stupid.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But also, your mother can't be out $400 when it didn't cost them $400. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ms. Stanhope didn't want to discuss it with me in a rational manner. Well, I tried talking to Mrs. Sayas twice on the phone, and she refused to return my phone calls. She didn't believe that Raymond, her son, did this to us in the first place. I've asked for overdraft fees that I could pay for that this may have caused, and she's refused to show me proof of that. I couldn't deal with it.
I just hope that they, in the long run, they'll forgive me.
I'm still friends with him.
We can start doing camping trips together again and hanging out.
20-year-old Scott Tarvin is suing the mother of his daughter, 20-year-old Sarah Heenahan, for smashing his car window with a propane tank.
Order. All rise.
Is that the defendants owe you money for work that you did for them in the capacity of a nanny for their 1-year-old child.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendants say that while you did, in fact, work for them for a very short period of time, your agreement was that the first week that you worked there would be a free week, which means you would not get paid for it. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you answer an ad that they put in the paper, or did they answer an ad that you put in the paper?
I had found them on GoNannies.com on the internet and responded and sent them an email regarding.
So you posted your ad on GoNannies.com? Is that a website?
We had 2 ads posted, one on GoNannies and one on eNannies.com.
Okay, when did you post the ad?
Back in March.
Do you have a copy of it?
No, I don't.
Do you?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall what it said?
It said that we were looking for a nanny for...
Because that's a whole long thing. Do you remember what the ad said?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did it say?
It had regarding their occupation and that she was a model and he was a business entrepreneur. They were an active family. They needed somebody that could be flexible in their hours and be active with their child. That it was $500 a week and that any hours worked more than 40 would be compensated.
So you answered the ad?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have a face-to-face meeting prior to starting work?
Yes, we did have a formal interview.
When was that?
It was about a week before I started.
Give me the date, please.
I don't have the...
Do you have the date?
We met with her on March 22nd.
Where?
At our home.
Okay. What are your work hours?
I am a wedding consultant. I work from, depending on when the weddings are, I work for...
Weddings are usually in the evening?
Yes, it is. I work till about 2 a.m.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a marketing director for K Designers, so I'm a salesman, basically.
And you work during the day?
During the day and some evenings, because I'm on appointments, so...
Fine. Who were taking care of the baby before?
We had a nanny before, and she moved out of state, and so I was looking for a new one. My mom did help when she could.
What was the name of the previous nanny?
Carolee.
How long did she work for you?
She worked for us for about a month.
Prior to that, who took care of the baby?
My mom.
So it's a fair statement that you've only had one nanny, according to you, for a month.
Yes.
So Carolee came to work for you and then moved?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Right. You know anything about that, Miss Benedict?
Yes, Your Honor, I actually do. During that interview, they had said that young girl named Carolee, she was flying from Oregon, that she had found her on GoNannies.com as well, and they wanted to have the opportunity to interview her too, and initially they weren't going to hire me, they hired her. She was there over the weekend, and they fired her, and that's why I was called, because Allie told me that the nanny that they had from Oregon had boy issues that they were not aware of, and she went back to Oregon.
So when you went for the interview on March 22nd, take your hands out of your pockets. When you went for the interview on March 22nd, you were told that they were going to interview this other girl from Oregon as well?
Yes, ma'am.
That's when you were told about it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other girl got the job?
Yes, Your Honor.
On March 22nd or March 23rd?
Yes, Your Honor.
When were you called to say that you got the job?
I was called at 10:30 a.m. Tuesday, March 28th, and I started at 11:30 a.m.
You're Miss Campbell?
Yes.
I want to tell you something. I don't want you to play with me. See, I can tell the difference between a made-up story and a story that has the ring of truth to it. What she just told me has the ring of truth to it. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I hardly believe a word that comes out of your mouth, Miss Campbell. I don't think you'd know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Carrie Benedict claims former employers Allie Campbell and David Peterson owe for unpaid wages. The couple says Carrie was an irresponsible caretaker.
Now, who worked for you between the 22nd of March and the 27th of March?
We didn't have a nanny between then. I interviewed this girl from Oregon who I did not like, and she did not get the job.
Well, you just told me that Carolee worked for you.
Carolee-
I'm speaking. You just told me that she worked for you for a month.
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
Which month?
She worked for me between February and March.
February what?
She worked for me between February 6th, and she left March 10th.
And are you telling me that nobody watched your child between the 22nd of March and the 28th of March?
My mom did.
All right, Miss Benedict. You worked from 3/28 until what date?
Your Honor, I quit April 5th.
Why?
Because I was disrespected and yelled at for an absolutely ridiculous reason that was not my responsibility. And
when?
It was that Wednesday, just that same day. Miss Campbell had called me, yelling at me that the child had stayed the night at my home. And she was yelling at me because I didn't have the baby at her home and demanded that I bring her home in a half an hour because David had a court case and that she wanted to go with him. And I said, well, there was no communication.
What kind of court case did you have, David?
My little girl was beat up by her, and I was going to court. It was basically protective order case, my little girl.
So you had a court case?
Yes.
And Miss Campbell was accompanying you to the court case?
Yes.
Why did the baby have to be home if Miss Campbell was going with you to court? David?
Well, we wouldn't bring the baby to a court case.
Well, then why did she have to come home?
Why did who have to come home?
The baby.
I think we're talking about different dates here.
I'm talking about April 5th, when, according to Miss Benedict, Miss Campbell called her and said, bring the baby home because David has a court case. We have to leave. Is that the conversation?
Yes, Your Honor.
So my question is, why would Miss Campbell need the baby to go to your court case?
Well, because if we're going to be gone for the afternoon, someone needs to be watching her. And she was supposed to have her back at 10, and so we'd already arranged with her mother to take over at that point. So she needed to be with another sitter.
All right, fine. So let me just understand this, so I get it straight. You're saying, see, I'm not asking her any questions.
Right.
I'm asking you the questions.
Okay.
Miss Campbell told Miss Benedict to bring the child home because you had a court case and her mother was going to come to take care of the baby so that the two of you could go to the court case. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're sure about that?
Well, it wasn't that she was coming to take care of her. We're going to take her to her mother's.
Okay, so the two of you were going to drive her to her mother's house
Before I went to court.
before you went to court.
Correct.
That's the reason why, is that right?
That's the reason why.
I want you to read what I have underlined here, sir. That's the response to this lawsuit. What does it say there?
This caused Kinsey to miss a doctor's appointment.
Yes. Give it back to me.
Okay.
That's not true, is it? It wasn't a doctor's appointment that was at issue here. It was you're going to court, according to you, and taking the baby over to her mother's house so that her mother could watch the baby.
These are two separate instances, though.
Really?
There was an instance where she needed her shots and was unable to get them and did miss a doctor's appointment. And then the last one where she got fired was when, we missed a court case because she didn't bring the child back when she said she would, and we were unable to reach her for 2 hours.
It became clear to me that Carrie was too irresponsible to be our nanny. Therefore, I fired her that day, April 3rd.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Listen, I don't know why I'm torturing these people anymore. When somebody works for you, they get paid. You work, you do weddings, you get paid. You work, you do whatever you do, you get paid. Somebody doesn't work for you for a week for nothing. And if you have your mother as a free babysitter, that's just great. But when you hire somebody, there's no slavery in this country anymore. Ridiculous. Your defense is stupid. And I don't believe you about this other nanny that you had, allegedly for a month, allegedly who went back to someplace else. I hardly believe a word that comes out of your mouth, Miss Campbell. I don't think you'd know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
They lied about their careers, and they just lied to Judge Judy.
Oh, I just think she was jealous.
Initially, she said that she was a model.
She's mad because she wasn't getting what she thought she deserved.
I found out she's an escort.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
And that he's basically her pimp.
Ridiculous. That's all I can say.
I'm just glad it's over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Baker versus Harding. Step forward, please.
Ann Baker is suing her son's ex-girlfriend, 23-year-old Cassie Harding, for the cost to get her out of jail. Cassie claims Ann took it upon herself to post bail.
Miss Baker, the defendant is your son's ex-girlfriend.
Correct.
And you claim she owes you some money for bail that you put up for her at her request. Ms. Harding says that the bail that you put up for her was very nice of you, but she never asked you for it and she never promised to repay you. She was with your son at the time of her arrest in October of 2004. Where is your son now?
He is currently incarcerated.
For what?
90 days for possession.
So he's had a long-standing drug problem.
This is on an old case about the same time that he was arrested with her.
Well, if he's doing 90 days now, it's because he either didn't pay a fine, he didn't do restitution, he was arrested on a warrant.
It was put off for a while because his lawyer changed.
Ms. Baker, you don't go to jail because you changed your lawyer.
He pled guilty.
There you go. Now, when were you arrested, Ms. Harding?
It was October 2004.
Have you already finished with that case?
Yes, I finished with it almost a year ago.
Did you plead guilty in that case?
I did.
What were the legal consequences?
I believe I had 9 months in jail.
So you had several cases?
Yes.
All drug-related?
Yes.
When were you released from prison?
May 12th, 2005.
Have you been arrested since?
No, ma'am. I've been clean for 19 months.
Great. You working?
I am.
Have anything to do with our son?
I have not talked to him for about 19 months.
Sound great. Who do you live with?
I live with my dad.
How old are you?
I'm 23. I have 2 kids.
Well, so far that's a good story. Let's hope it stays in the same course.
Yes, everything is going very well.
You were arrested with Miss Baker's son, I gather from the papers, while you were in a car, and it was for drug possession.
What happened was I was pulled over for my license plate not being illuminated. I was driving on a suspended license. It was my mother's vehicle. They asked to search the vehicle. I told them that it wasn't mine. They couldn't search it. They bring in a dog. They had the dog walk around the vehicle. The dog scratched at Luke's door. They pulled him out of the vehicle, searched him, found his paraphernalia, and then went ahead and searched the rest of the vehicle.
And you were arrested subsequently after a search, is that right?
Yes, I was arrested for driving on a suspended license and taken down to the police station and strip searched. And that's when they found the drugs on me, so.
Did you call Miss Baker?
No, I did not.
Who called you, Miss Baker?
My son got out of jail right away, and then she called him and talked to him several times, and then he talked to me about it. And then she talked to me on the phone also.
When did she talk to you?
It was about October 9th.
Was she still in jail on October
Yes, ma'am.
9th? Well, tell me your version of that conversation, Miss Baker.
Well, she said that she wanted to get out because she knew that she was going to go to jail later on another charge. She wanted to spend some time with her children. If I would help her get out, that she would pay me back.
You remember any part of that conversation?
No, that conversation never happened. I speak with my mother, and my kids' dad was the only parties that I talked to.
No, you called my son several times.
I'm not talking about your son. I don't care about her conversations with your son. I believe she called your son. I'm not so sure if I believe she talked to you, but I believe she talked to your son.
Okay.
You were, in fact, released from jail.
Mm-hmm.
Who bailed you out?
A bunch of people. My mother gave $500. My kids' dad put up a car title. Jessica put up a car title, and then Miss Baker put up a lien on her house.
Well, that's a big thing, that she put up her house for bail, right?
Yeah.
How long were you out of jail before you negotiated a plea and went to prison?
I was out of jail for exactly 1 week, and I got arrested for new charges. Was in jail probably about a week long, and then got bailed out again.
Who bailed you out the second time?
My mother. And then a week later, got arrested again on new charges, and then did the 9 months. And I do have all my cases right here.
Where's your mother?
My mother lives in Utah, in American Fork. She's still using, I don't talk to her.
Listen, this is what happened to Miss Baker. Because she put up her house as collateral for your bail, there was a problem when she went to sell her house. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
And she couldn't sell her house because there was going to be a lien on it from the bail, from a time that you were not doing well. Tell me why you believe that she should be responsible for your bail.
Because in the same aspect, she wasn't doing well either. I was supporting her drug habit. It was, all in all, very twisted. I was more or less selling drugs out of her home.
You mean Miss Baker was using drugs as well?
Yes, she is.
What kind of drugs was she using?
Meth.
You were living with her son?
No, I was not. Her son was selling for me as well.
Selling for you?
Yeah.
Did Miss Baker in any way profit from your sale of drugs?
It was pretty much I sold drugs out of her house so I wouldn't have to mind. I would give her drugs so that I could sell drugs out of her house.
So there was no cash exchanged?
No.
Just merchandise?
Yes.
Ms. Baker, I'm not going to ask you that question now. You don't have an attorney present, and I won't get involved with that. But I'm going to tell you that Miss Harding has been truthful with me so far about everything else that she's told me, about her arrests, about her drug use, about her sale. So, Ms. Baker, I'm not going to ask you those questions. But so far, I'm not real satisfied that there was an agreement between the two of you for her to pay you back. I think you did have conversations with your son, but I told you before I had serious reservations as to whether you had conversations with Miss Harding. And from a moral perspective, if there is any truth to her statement that she was selling drugs out of your house with your knowledge and was compensating you with drugs for your own use or for anybody else's use, you're going to have to eat the $1,700.
Can I bring my witness forward?
Who's your witness?
This is Danielle Miller. She's a friend of mine and my son's friend also.
You're Danielle Miller?
Ward. Excuse me, Ward. Married.
How do you know Miss Baker?
She's been a longtime friend. She's more like my mother. I'm not really friends with her son anymore, and she and I have just built a relationship.
How long were you friendly with her son?
Maybe like 6 months.
Do you know Miss Ward?
Yes, I do.
Ever involved with drugs with Miss Ward?
I was with her.
With her?
Yes.
In what way?
I used to buy drugs from him.
Yes, Mom, that's true. That's totally true. He also did his time, spent quite a while in jail, and is out, and he's doing just as well as she is, if not better.
Good. Wonderful. I'm really pleased to hear that. The issue that is before me
yes, ma'am,
is whether or not there was a contract
right
between these two people for Miss Harding to pay Miss Baker back the bail before she was bailed out.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you have information with regard to that?
Right.
Now I'll hear you.
Okay, she and I were preparing to take our GED test together. I recognized her. I hadn't seen her for a long time, so I approached her.
When was this?
January 25th, 2006.
Okay.
And I approached her and I asked her if she was who she was. I wasn't quite sure, and she said yes. And we started talking. The only people we have in common are the Baker family. And we were talking, and she said, yes, I heard that Ann put her house up for me to get out of jail. I was planning on paying her back as soon as I got some money.
That's nice. That doesn't make a contract. Thank you. It would have been nice if you paid her back, but I have to find that there was a pre-existing contract, a contract that existed from October of 2004 at the time she was bailed out. I did not believe Miss Baker before I knew all of this stuff about the drugs. When she said to me that she had a conversation with Miss Harding, I believe her conversations were through her son. I believe her son said, let's do everything we can to get her out. I believe that there was business going on in your house, Miss Baker. That's my sense. Business being conducted by perhaps Miss Ward's husband, certainly by Miss Harding, who acknowledges that, and probably with your son. So there was ample reason for wanting to bail Miss Harding out. And in order for me to find that she is responsible for her bail, I have to find a pre-existing contract. Yes.
I have a letter here that she wrote me from jail stating as such.
Well, let me see it.
There's the highlighted part on the second page.
Show this to the defendant, please. Did you write that?
Yeah, I did.
Well, it's clear to me that letter says that I will get him paid like I promised. Is that right, Miss Harding?
Yeah, it does.
Anything you want to tell me?
I never promised Ann that I would pay it back.
Well, this is dated December of 2004, and this is an acknowledgement of that debt. But I will get him paid like I promised. That's what you wrote. Miss Baker, very infrequently in my career have I had to make a judgment for somebody that really stuck in my throat. I want to tell you something. This judgment really sticks in my throat, because I don't think that Miss Harding and your son were the only ones who were involved in this illegal transaction. But you certainly had the evidence. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just hope she gets her life straightened out.
She has lied in the past, and she was lying today.
It was chaotic and crazy.
There was some chaotic lifestyle, but that's all behind us.
I was just happy to be out of jail.
She was in a drug fog.
So I could be with my kids.
The bottom line is, she owed me the money.
I don't plan on having them in my future.
I'm happy we can all move on and live our lives.
Get help, get rehab.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Didia versus Quietek. Step forward, please.
Deborah Didia is suing the father of her grandchildren, 23-year-old George Quietek, for vandalizing her car. Deborah says during a fight with her daughter, George slammed the dashboard with his fist.
Miss Didia, this is your daughter's former boyfriend, and it is your claim that he is responsible for ruining the dashboard on your car. He was in the car. You were not in the car. In the car was Mr. Quietek and your daughter.
Yes.
He was the passenger. She was the driver. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you sit down? Daughter, stand up. We'll see if there's first any liability, and then if there is, we'll find out what the damages were. Jessica, how long were you and George a couple?
3 years.
Now, this whole argument, I gather, in the car, which was on what date?
It was sometime in March.
Give me a date.
March 9th.
Thank you, George. This argument started, Jessica, I gather from George, because you had used a cell phone and ran up a bill of almost $900. Is that right, George?
Yes, ma'am.
And your mother was paying that bill?
No, I was.
But it's your mother's,
It was in my mother's name.
It was
yes,
in your
ma'am.
mother name. So you were initially annoyed about the use of
I was
this.
very upset, ma'am.
Very upset. And I don't blame you. What kind of stupidity is that, to rack up a $900 phone bill?
Actually, it wasn't $900, and...
How much was it?
It was, I was only over my minutes, like, only a little bit, and we shared a family plan between me, him, his brother, and his sister, and between all of us, we racked up the bill. It wasn't just my cell phone.
What was yours?
Mine was probably about $100 over.
I mean, are you in business or anything? Is there any reason why you were $100 over your cell phone?
No, it was probably just text messages.
For 39 cents, you could send a letter. In any event, on March 9th, you had just gotten this bill. You were very annoyed. You were in the car with her. She was on the phone while driving. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. We had stopped to get...
She was on the phone while she was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she actually moving when she was on the phone?
No, actually, we stopped at the gas station. She was on the phone, and then we started driving away, and that's when I told her to get off the phone. I was very rude about her getting off the phone, which is why we got into the argument.
You were rude?
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said something like, get off the...
effing phone, yes, ma'am.
So you didn't think I was that hip? Hip, whatever it is. Whatever it is that I am. And she said to you...
Don't talk to me like that.
So what did you do, Jessica?
Well, at the time, I was speaking to my mother on the phone. I was having an important conversation.
About what?
About my children.
You have children?
We have 2 kids together.
How old are your children?
One's 21 months and one's 9 months.
How old are you?
19. Well, I was having a conversation with my mother on the phone, and...
Well, just a second. Where were you coming from?
His mother's house.
What were you doing there?
Dropping my children off.
What day of the week was this?
It was a Tuesday.
What time?
Around 11.
A Tuesday at 11. Is that your day off?
No, ma'am, I was laid off from work due to the weather.
So why weren't you out collecting cans? You have 2 children.
I was...
You're just a... The answer is you never thought of it until I mentioned it to you. And it's a Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Were you off from work?
Well, we were going to look for an apartment, so yes, I was off work.
What kind of work do you do?
I was working with my mom doing payroll.
Doing payroll for what?
For companies. I do payroll data entry at her office.
She pays you, or the company pays you?
The company pays me.
Check or cash?
Check.
How much do you earn a week?
Probably about $300.
What do you do with the money?
I save it, and I pay bills with it.
Who takes care of your children?
His mother.
When he told you to get off the phone and was rude, did you hit him?
No.
What did you do?
At first, I hung up the phone with my mother and I pulled over the side of the road because he was screaming and flipping out, and I wasn't going to tolerate that while I was driving. I pulled over and I told him to get out of my car, and that's when he decided that he was going to bash my dashboard in.
Is that what happened, George?
To some extent.
Finish it.
Well, I didn't bash the dashboard. I just slammed my fist on the dashboard and caused a little crack on it and dented it a little bit. But what happened was she was driving and she yelled at me back, and she was driving recklessly. She pulled off the side of the road in an irrational manner and told me to get out the car. I told her I wasn't getting out of the car because I wasn't going to get stranded miles from home. And that's when she pursued to argue with me and run around the car, tell me to get out, ran inside the diner to call the cops. And at that point, that's when I decided to leave.
When Jessica got off the phone, she got really angry at me and started hitting and punching me. How come you left that out? Was that not important to you?
Well,
or was that a lie? Listen to me, George.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at me. Did you leave that out because when you wrote this, it wasn't true?
No, ma'am, it is true.
So why didn't you tell me that?
I don't think it was that important to the case.
At that point, I had every right to hit her back. However, I would never do that. That's your whole defense.
Yes, ma'am. That's when I turned into the dashboard.
I don't owe Deborah any money for the damaged dashboard. Her daughter was the one who instigated the incident. She was the one who started hitting me first. She's lucky that I'm not the type of man who would hit a woman. That was your whole defense. How come you left that out?
I have no idea.
You got to know how to do something, George, other than to make babies. Making babies is very easy.
Yes, ma'am.
Fish make babies, dogs make babies, cats make babies. Quiet! Polar bears make babies, parakeets make babies. It doesn't take any brains.
You're right.
Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am. I've been working for a year and a half in construction. Like I said, I was only laid off at the time because it was the winter time, and I was laid off because I work outside all day.
Are you two living together?
No.
Who are you living with?
I'm currently living with my mother until I leave to go into the Army.
And where are your children?
Living with me, with my mom.
And what's going to happen to them when you go into the Army?
My mom and their dad, George, decided that they wanted to share custody, and so they'll each take them for half the week until after I finish boot camp, and then they're going to come live with me.
Oh, you don't need any more babies, Jessica. You have enough children now for a very long time. Did your mother tell you that?
Yes.
Ditto. You have other children at home?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many?
I have 3 still living at home.
3? How old are they?
Two 17-year-olds and a 12-year-old.
How are you going to take care of these 2 babies when you have them?
Well, we own our own business, and me and my husband are going to take turns taking care of them, working opposite shifts during the day, and the other days his mom will have them. It's only for about 7 to 8 weeks.
Your mother stays at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Who supports the family?
My father does, and I do.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,622. That's all. Step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I can't argue with it because I broke the dashboard. She gets what she gets.
He has no self-control when he doesn't get what he wants.
She gets overzealous over everything.
He was just angry at the fact that I was speaking to my mom at the time, and he didn't want me to talk to her.
I think they were more money hungry than anything else.
So that's the reason why he was yelling for me to get off the phone. It had nothing to do with money.
The children, I'm going to be a good dad. That's all that matters.
We're getting along well, just for our kids.
When she takes him to the Army, I hope I'm still a part around.
Yeah, it's all about control.
24-year-old Piero Fanini is suing Chris Barabee for denting his truck with his head. Piero claims a drunken Chris fell into his vehicle during a USC football game.
Yeah, this is case number 25 on the calendar in the matter of Fanini versus Barabee.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Fanini, you are not a witness to the events that took place during this ball game, but it is your claim that the defendant, probably while drunk, dented your car using his head.
Correct.
He fell or tripped over. Fell or tripped or whatever, but
Correct.
damaged your car. The defendant vigorously denies the allegations. I'm not certain whether he recalls what happened on that day, but he says that that just could not have happened. Give me the date of this incident.
It was
please.
December 3rd, 2005.
Where was it?
In downtown Los Angeles at the Coliseum, Los Angeles Coliseum.
How did were you advised that your car was damaged?
I was exiting the game maybe a couple minutes early, and I just got back to my car.
Look at me. Stay focused on me.
I got back to my car. Well, my witness, Jordan, was calling me. I guess the calls weren't going through. I got back to my car, and he told me the whole story. I guess he talked to the police. The whole situation was over when I got back to my car.
Okay. You're Jordan?
Yes.
Jordan, you have a last name?
Yusum.
Had you gone to the game together?
It was in the same car we went together, yes.
Why were you exiting separately?
I never got into the game. I don't have season tickets to the game, and we usually just end up buying tickets in the parking lot because it was a big game. Tickets were either too expensive or I just couldn't find tickets to get into the game.
So what did you do? You stayed out in the car?
Yeah, me and a buddy, we tailgate at the game, we barbecue, we bring a TV.
Is that what tailgating means? I wasn't sure. I read it in your complaint. It means you opened up the tailgate of the car and you sort of have a picnic in the parking lot.
Yeah, we have a picnic, a barbecue, we bring a TV, watch the pregame.
And they don't mind that you do that?
No. Football game, a lot of people do it at this particular parking lot. People get there early.
So you were outside?
Yes.
What happened?
It was towards the fourth quarter of the game. In the fourth quarter of the game, I was sitting at the back driver's side rear, outside of the car, watching the TV that was sitting in the tailgate or in the trunk of Piero's truck.
Can I interject?
No.
Thanks.
I had a sight line down the driver's side of the car and noticed out of the corner of my eye that someone had fallen at the front of Piero's car. I got up to see what had happened. I noticed there was a large dent in the front of Piero's car. I turned around for whatever reason, and there were actually two police officers on bicycles right behind me. I got their attention. By the time they came back and turned around within a matter of a few seconds, the person who had dented the car was gone. I described to the police officers what he looked like.
Do you recall what description you gave to the police officers?
Tall white guy, about 6'6".
Had you actually seen him either fall or get up after he fell?
No, I saw him at the base of the car. The dent is right above the front driver's side wheel, and I saw him basically on the ground right there. When I went to go see what happened, I saw there was a dent in the car.
Now, when you went to see what happened, what did this person do?
He was still on the ground. He didn't do anything at that point. I noticed there was a dent, and because it wasn't my car, I didn't want to get involved with it. I had nothing really to do with it. I turned around for whatever reason. There happened to be two police officers there. By the time I got their attention and they came over to me, it was a matter of 10 feet. The person who was at the base of the car was gone at that point.
So you actually saw the face of the person who dented the car?
No, I believe I saw their back.
Did you describe their clothing?
No.
Okay, so you saw only the back?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Described to the police officers what the person looked like. The police officers on the bicycle.
From the back?
From the back, yeah. Basically a tall white guy.
And you could tell that from his position on the ground?
Yeah, he was a big guy on the ground.
Okay.
Described to the police officers, they biked around within a few cars, 25-yard circle for a minute or so. Didn't see anyone. They came back to where I was at the car, and I asked them, I said, can I get a report so I can give it to my friend so he can go to his insurance or whatever he wants to do? While we're in the process of doing this or getting the paperwork, the defendant walks right by us, me and the two police officers, and I told the police officer, said, that's the guy who fell at the car.
How did you know that?
I recognized his clothing, and it looked just like the guy. There was nothing...
You didn't see his face. You just saw him from the back.
I didn't see his face, but he fit exactly the mold of what I saw there. I didn't see anything that was particularly unique about him, but he happened to walk right by us, and he matched the best description that I had that I gave to the police officers.
Okay.
And in fact, they actually pointed him out to me. They said, is that the guy? And I said, yeah, that's him.
Go ahead.
So they pulled him over, and he attempted to talk to me to resolve the situation.
What did he say to you?
He said, if I remember correctly, can I pay you right now, or how can we get this resolved without getting the police involved?
He said to you?
Yes, he was trying to speak to me.
But he said, can I pay you? Is that what he said?
I think that's what he was trying to get.
Not trying to get. What did he say?
He didn't say pay me. He said, can we resolve this now? But it's not my car. I wasn't in a place to resolve it for Piero.
So you said no?
I actually told the police officer, I said, I'm not going to speak to him. I'll speak to you. I have nothing to say to him. It's not my car. It's not my place. If you can just get a report so I can give it to Piero and he can deal with it.
Fine. And this was the person who you had this brief conversation with subsequent to seeing someone who matched his description on the ground near a dent?
Yes.
Can I see pictures of the car, please?
Pictures of the car, and this is where it happened.
Mr. Fanini, you never had a conversation with the defendant, or did you?
I did have 2 conversations with the defendant.
Your first conversation was when?
It was about maybe 2-3 weeks after.
Did you call him?
Yes, I did.
And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
He basically said, you know, this is an unfortunate situation, like, hopefully we can resolve this, and he offered to pay for half of it.
For half the
The
dent?
damages. Because I sent him an email, I have a string of emails sending him the damages and the field interview card. It's not a police report, but it's
Do you have any reply emails from him?
Yes, I do.
Can I see them, please?
This is the police thing and the estimate.
Okay, sir. Now I'll hear you.
I was at the football game. I was tailgating in the same environment, obviously. At no point did I dent his car. I'd like to bring up how he recognized me being tall, just being on the ground, as one of the first inconsistencies in this whole story. Police officer grabbed my arm, said, "I need your information." I had no idea what he was talking about. It kind of came as a shock. Michelle was there. She saw that happen.
Michelle just saw the police officer
No,
take your
Michelle
arm.
was with me the whole time.
That's not true. And even Michelle's not going to say that to me because she doesn't want to wind up in my mouth.
I was with him the whole time.
No, you weren't. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a salesman.
What do you sell?
Promotional merchandise for conferences.
Are you a good salesman?
Sometimes,
So you're a businessman.
yes.
Do you have people who work for you or do you work for somebody else?
I'm self-employed.
Do you have employees?
No.
So you do this all yourself?
Yes, it's challenging.
Let's say you get an order from a big company and they're going to buy 1,000 cups. You call the people who make the cups and say, I want 1,000 cups and I want this logo on it.
Correct.
Judge Judy.
I can do that.
And then all of a sudden, the people who make these cups call me and say, you know what? We can make it for you for half the cost. What do we need Chris for? We don't need Christopher for anything. You know, what is he doing? He's going to deliver them to you. That's ridiculous. Would you be angry? Of course you would be, because you want what you're entitled to. You wouldn't want to take credit for something that you didn't do. You made the sale. Somebody's trying to knock you out of a sale. So you're a businessman. I've just read a series of emails, Christopher. And in those series of emails, you clearly say to Mr. Fanini that you are prepared to accept the responsibility for this. No, listen to me very carefully, sir.
I just agreed to at least meet and see what this is all
No,
about.
that's not true, sir. That's not true. That's a big fib, Chris. Sometimes you have to have a good memory. Because if you never lie, and if you always tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. The last thing that you say to him in your email was, I'll take the estimates and pictures to my family auto repair guy and see what he quotes us.
Yeah.
I'd see what he quotes us. Now, you're doing this because all of a sudden you became enamored with Mr. Fanini?
The whole reason I'm doing this is because his friend had the police threaten me, and I don't know what this whole police report is all about, and I'm obviously fearing some sort of police involvement with something I have nothing to do. So I'm just trying to be a respectable person and talk with him about it. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Remember when I talked to you about the cup? You want the right people to get paid. You want the right people to get the credit. You want the wrong people to be let go. And Chris, 6 foot, I don't know, 4, 5, whatever it is, looked like a nice guy, got a nice girlfriend. You don't take the responsibility for something that you weren't involved with in writing.
I'm not taking responsibility.
You are. You did. This, sir, in
if that's
legal,
what
I'm speaking. Don't
Sorry.
speak when I speak.
Sorry.
She may permit that. I don't. Somebody who accepts responsibility by saying, let me take it and see if I can get it done cheaper, and if not, I'm trying to, please understand that I have a lot on my plate now, and I'm trying to resolve this as soon as I can.
But I'm not accepting responsibility.
Well, sir, in legal terms, it's a good thing you're not a lawyer, because in legal terms, that is as close to an admission of guilt as you can possibly get. As close to.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
If she said to you, look, pull the hoodie over your head, I want you to go in, hold up the store, would you do that?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
It's against the law.
real cases. Piero Fanini claims his vehicle was dented by Chris Barraby's head. Piero claims a drunken Chris fell into the vehicle.
At any time, Christopher, after you left, did you call the police and said, listen, I gave this man my identification because I was told to give him my identification, but I want it indicated in your report that I never did anything to his car.
I tried to talk to
Instead, you had a series of emails back and forth, no less than 4, all of which acknowledged financial responsibility for this.
Can I speak about the inconsistencies in their testimony?
I'm not relying on their testimony, sir. He never made an identification of you by your face. He made an identification of you generally by your clothing description. If that was all that there was, the case would have been dismissed. Period. End of discussion.
I was dressed the same as all other 100,000 people.
Listen to me. Christopher, I want you to listen to me. Put on your listening ears, sir.
Okay.
If all that there was to this case was Jordan's testimony about his identification of you, the case would have been dismissed. I would not have been satisfied that you were properly identified as the person who fell into his car and dented it.
I wasn't.
No question. Your emails were all the confession that I needed. Your acknowledgement of fiscal responsibility and being prepared to accept financial responsibility was all that I needed to say somebody who is an intelligent, articulate person, at least he would put it in his email. Listen, I didn't do this damage to your car, but I want to resolve this.
That was what
listen to me. I didn't do this damage to your car. However, in order to resolve this issue, so that we don't have to go any further with it, I accept responsibility to pay half of the damage. Do you want me to show you your emails and you're going to point out to me where you say that anywhere? No, you didn't.
Read that in there, but that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, I talked with him over the phone and admitted that I didn't do it. I talked to him about it.
Show me in the email where you say that, sir.
There was communication other than the emails.
Well,
Several.
then it serves a very important lesson to everybody. Don't put it in writing. Just for the plaintiff in the amount of $915. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I would imagine a football hit it, anything.
I mean, he could easily have been drunk and not have remembered hitting his head.
That was my first USC football game, and, I'll go back again. I'll just, I don't know, have better luck, I guess.
I think she made the good decision, and, glad it's over with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Siri versus Carvello, step forward.
24-year-old Samantha Siri is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Michael Carvello, for an unpaid loan for a plane ticket. Michael says the ticket was a gift.
Mr. Carvello, how old are you, sir?
25, ma'am.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a bouncer at a bar.
And how long have you been doing that?
Approximately 8 months.
What did you do before that?
I was working part-time, just odd jobs.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Police officer.
What are you doing in order to train yourself for that?
Just taking classes right now, going through schooling, extra schooling.
What extra schooling? Don't play with me. What extra schooling? You need a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree?
You don't need neither for...
So what classes are you taking?
Just side criminal justice type classes.
Where?
Community college.
What courses are you currently taking?
Administration of justice.
Yes.
And law classes.
How many classes are you taking?
2.
Administration of justice.
Yes, ma'am.
What else?
Introduction to law.
Okay. You met the plaintiff. According to you, she made a gift to you of a plane ticket.
Correct.
She says it was a loan. She wants her money. When did you meet her, Mr. Carvello?
I believe it was late October, early November.
And what did she need a plane ticket for?
The plane ticket was for a trip to Phoenix, Arizona.
For what?
Just to go along with a friend for a weekend trip.
Why were you going with your friend to Phoenix, Arizona if you couldn't afford to go?
He was going to see some family, and I wanted to go along with him.
Well, why were you going, sir, if you didn't have the money to go?
Just to accompany him, have a weekend.
You didn't have the money to go?
That is correct.
So what did you do?
I mentioned the situation to Samantha.
Well, what did you say when you mentioned the situation, Mr. Carvello?
I told her I had a friend of mine going to Arizona, and I'd like to go with him. The plane ticket was a little bit of money, and I didn't quite have it. And she had offered to...
No, the plane ticket was a little bit of money. We're talking about words. Plane ticket was a little bit of money.
Correct.
Did you tell her how much money?
Approximately, yes, I did give her a range.
Well, did she give you a range of money, or did she buy the ticket?
No, she gave me a range of money, Your Honor.
What range of money did she give you?
$325.
How much was the plane ticket?
I believe it was about $300.
Well, Mr. Carvello, you just told me a moment ago that you didn't quite have the money for the plane ticket. How much did you have?
I couldn't afford it.
No, that's not what you told me. You told me that you told Miss Seri that you didn't quite have it, which would suggest to a person of reasonable intelligence who wants to be a police officer that you had most of it, but you were short a little bit. So how much did you have?
Maybe $100. Some spending money, maybe.
You get where I'm going?
Vaguely.
Now, when did she give you the money, sir?
I believe it was around the middle of November.
What date?
Right around the 15th, I believe.
And you went when to Phoenix?
towards the end of the month, I believe the 23rd, 4th.
Between the 15th and the 23rd, did you see Miss Seri?
Yes, a few times.
When did you finally decide that she wasn't for you?
It was a little bit after I returned from the trip.
So right after she gave you the money?
You could say that.
Mr. Carvello, we don't like amoral bums to be on the police force, sir. Amoral bums belong doing other odd jobs. You have a copy of the check?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Mr. Carvello, you really, if you're in a committed long-term relationship and somebody wants to be nice to you and make a gift to you of some money for something that is a non-essential thing, like joining a buddy to go on a weekend, I can see maybe in that kind of a relationship there's give and take. But if she gave you this money, and shortly after her giving you the money, according to her, she went into the bar where you work and you totally ignored her. Is that what happened?
We went out together, another bar where he doesn't work, but then after that was completely rude, and then I had no more contact with him.
Then it seems to me that what you do is you say, I'm going to give you back the money, even though we didn't have a time frame or whatever. But this was, in fact, a loan. He did say he was going to return it to you.
Yes, he did.
When did he say he was going to return it to you?
In about a week.
Yeah. Mr. Carvello, either you have to do something to buttress your moral fiber, sir, or you have to pick a different profession.
Sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $325. Would you do me a favor? Find him the door.
That I can do. Parties are excused. You may step out.
I informed the plaintiff that I didn't have the money for it.
He just thinks he's the most charming person in the world.
And she agreed.
And I don't like being taken advantage of.
I view it as more of a gift, definitely.
He's a jerk, and he doesn't want to pay the money.
Property damage and loss of income.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case 2152, Robinson versus Lane.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How long have you been in the business of renting party equipment?
We've been in the business about 2.5 years.
And when you started the business by purchasing how many pieces of equipment?
We purchased 3 used units.
3 used?
Yes, obstacle courses. And we rented them out. And then we saved the money and then progressed renting them out and getting more.
Now, the jumper that you rented to the defendants.
Yes, ma'am.
Was one that you bought used or one that you bought new?
I bought it new.
When?
I bought it on 7/19/21. I have the receipt for it.
I'd like to see it, please. Okay, and what you rented from them was a 38-foot obstacle course.
We didn't rent from them.
Who did?
Some friends of ours did. They used our property for their daughter's Sweet 16. They paid the Robinsons. They signed the rental agreement. We did not.
Is that correct?
Sandra is actually the one that handed me the cash.
Did somebody sign a rental agreement?
Yes.
Who was it?
It's a lady. Her name is...
Okay, so let me understand that this is... let me frame it. You rented this piece of equipment, which is a 38-foot obstacle course, to someone whose name is... And according to your complaint, it was returned damaged.
Yes.
You say it can't be repaired, although you tried to patch it.
Right.
And you want the cost of a new obstacle course, and while you paid $4,500, you want $9,000.
Well, I have a list of loss of rentals because people...
You're not entitled to that. Okay. More important, I want to know how you think if these people were not signatories to your rental agreement, why...
This, when we went there to drop it off, we did all the... I dealt completely with Sandra. They run a business in their property, which is for parties. She said they do cigar club parties, they do Sweet 16 parties on their property.
Okay, got it. You do this as a business?
So, yes, we run...
The answer is yes.
Yes.
You use your home property? Is it your home property that you use?
Yes.
So you have a large enough piece of property that other people who want to make parties for their children do them at your house?
Yes.
So you took physical custody of this?
No.
Who did?
The renters, the people.
No. It's physical custody, not legal custody. We're not talking about legal custody. You took physical custody and put it on your property.
The people that signed the original rental agreement were on the property at the time that they dropped it off.
I don't care. It was on your property.
Yes, it was on our property.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
So it was on your property, but used by somebody else, and they were just using your property.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I had it rented out on Sunday. So when I dropped it off, I told Sandra that we would have to come at 6:30 in the morning to pick it up, to clean it and deliver it the next day. She agreed to that because normally we don't leave it overnight if it's going out the next day because we need to sterilize it. When we got there at 7 in the morning, we came in and we were getting ready to pick up the 38-foot obstacle. I noticed that the dogs had chewed, and there are two dogs, a boxer and another dog, were still running around and lifting their leg and urinating on the bouncer. We told her, your dog ate our obstacle. There's pieces of the vinyl, which I have pictures of it, where your dog just ate
You
it.
have pictures of our dog chewing it?
Just a second. I don't want to hear you again. I tried to ignore you quietly.
We have a problem. Your dogs have eaten our obstacle. So then she went in to go and get her husband. Her husband came out. He signed paper saying he was responsible for loss of rentals and the damages or replacement of it.
May I see it, please?
Yes. And also he sent text messages to our phone that same morning apologizing and saying he would do everything to replace it, plus the loss of rentals that we were going to lose.
I'd like to see those texts, and I would like to see his signature on a piece of paper assuming responsibility.
And then,
just a second.
And here's the text messages.
Oh, would you show this to Mr. Lang, please? Yes. Did you sign that, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
I signed it under distress.
Under distress?
Under distress.
There's no such thing. You mean duress?
Duress. She was.
Just a second. There's a difference between distress.
Duress.
Okay. At 7:29 a.m., you said, I, Aaron Lang, recognize and acknowledge that a jumper obstacle course has been damaged from a dog. I will take care of the repairs and work with the rental company and its owners to get this resolved ASAP. And then about 15 minutes later, you wrote, I'm so sorry again. Let me know when you drop it off, please. Okay, so you tried to drop it off the next day.
I was trying to drop it off the next day to Albert, our repair guy.
Just a second, just answer my question. It doesn't require a long answer. The next day, you were trying to get it resolved, and you're back and forth with him, let me know, et cetera, and then you don't hear from him.
No.
Then it stopped. Tried calling you, I tried messaging you to get this resolved.
Yes.
Okay, well, Mr. Lang, there's no question. You acknowledge the damage and you agreed to pay for it. That's what you have. Can I have that back? You acknowledged in here that you would take full responsibility for this. What's your defense?
My defense is when they arrived on the property to pick up their jumper that was left, of course.
Well, they came to you first.
Yes. Correct.
Is that, don't speak. They came to you first.
Yes.
You came outside.
Yes.
Okay, and when you came outside, you had a conversation with whom?
I believe Miss Robinson.
With Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you say to her and what did she say to you?
She just went hysterically, like upset that the jumper was damaged, and that's when I went inside and
Just a
dropped
second.
my husband.
What did she say?
She just started crying, and she
started to cry.
Yeah, and she's like, your dog's damaged my obstacle course.
Just a second. So she was crying.
Yes.
And did you have any issue when she said to you, your dog's damaged my obstacle course? Did you see what was bitten off from the obstacle course? That's either a yes or no. The answer is yes. Okay. What kind of dogs do you have?
A German Shepherd and a Boxer.
And where had you stored this unit overnight?
It was left outside.
In the backyard, in the front yard?
We live on a huge ranch, so it's a 2.5 acre parcel. And it's been known that our neighbor dogs always hop.
I don't want to hear neighbor dogs. I don't want to hear coyotes. I don't want to hear bears.
My witness, he is the repair guide.
Stand up, sir. I don't need an explanation of this. I'm not going into the repair jumper business. Thankfully, I have a job, and I'm too old to learn anything new.
And later today.
You have the phone.
I do.
To this day, I am still paying for the data for that phone.
That's a lie.
Just a second.
I literally just
a
Tabitha and Brandon Robinson claim their customers, Aaron and Sandra Lang, refused to pay the costs of repairs after damaging their jumper house.
Okay, now I'm going to get back to you. So now your wife comes in to get you, and you went outside.
Yes. We were there.
Both of them?
Equipment. Yes.
Okay.
And their daughter.
Okay, and?
I go outside. Miss Robinson is completely hysterical, crying, just out of control in hysterics.
Okay.
Her husband's yelling, screaming, profanity.
No, tell me. Oh, I want you to tell me exactly. No. I want you to tell me exactly. She's crying, and he starts yelling.
Yes.
Well, you came out and said what to them when you came out? And then I want to hear exactly what was said.
I asked to see the damage, for them to show me what was going on, what had happened. They showed me the damage. We both took pictures. Again,
no, you both
took
pictures. Just a second. So he composed himself long enough to take pictures.
Yes.
And you were composed enough to take pictures.
Yes, I was.
Which you have.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Throughout their screaming.
No, I want you to tell me. Now you're taking pictures, and?
Brandon is on the phone with their repair guy of some sort.
Okay, so he's on the phone. He's composed enough to be on the phone. Now, before he got on the phone with his repair guy, did you discuss with him your responsibility to take care of the damage? That's either yes or a no.
Yes.
Yes. So once you said, I'll take care of the damage, he got on the phone with his repair guy.
Before I agreed to take care of the damages, before we discussed that, he was already on the phone.
Okay, and then he got off the phone, but you signed this the same day. So I want to know when in this conversation you signed it. You need something to lean on. Somebody has to give you a piece of paper. Somebody has to get a pen.
I did not fill out that piece of paper.
You don't have to.
Tabitha is the one that filled out the piece of paper in their vehicle.
Who did?
Miss Robinson is the one that filled it out in her vehicle.
Okay, so just a second. So she got in her vehicle.
Crying in hysterics.
Oh, I don't care. She got in her vehicle, and where was her husband?
Outside loading a bouncer.
So he was outside.
Yes.
She went inside her vehicle, and he was busy.
Yes.
And you live in a house.
Yes.
Inside to call the police.
No, I did not. I should have.
Yeah, but you didn't.
I did not.
You went over to the truck where she was hysterical. She wrote out this document, right?
Yes.
And you signed it.
Yes, I did.
There we go. Make my life very easy. Did your repair guy try to fix the bouncer?
I do have a receipt where we did have it, tried to get it temporary patch where we paid $600 just to make sure we could still rent it out. So that was paid for. This is my repairman. He is my witness. And then also I do have a paper with an estimate of what it would be to repair the obstacle.
May I see it, please? After he did this job, which he did on October 4th, from the 3rd to the 4th, did you rent it out?
No, we tried to, but I have pictures that I brought of what happens when the air flows through. The patches won't stay. You have to go up inside the bouncer and actually put a patch on the inside and the outside, and it would cost more money. My witness he
Just
is
a
the repair
second.
guy that can
What
tell you.
you're telling me is that your witness prepared this estimate of what it would cost to repair the jumper.
Yes.
Stand up, sir. I don't need an explanation of this. I'm not going into the repair jumper business. Thankfully, I have a job, and I'm too old to learn anything new. Did you prepare this estimate to fix the jumper?
Yes, ma'am. That is the full estimate to repair it properly.
To do it properly?
Location. Yes.
Okay.
The first one was the temporary repair.
Listen, I got it. I'm a fast learner, and anybody who watches this program better learn to think fast too, because I have a lot of things to do today. So you prepare this. So for $2,500, in addition to the $600, did they pay you the $600?
Yes.
So in addition to the $600, so in total, $3,100 would fix the jumper.
Correct.
Great. Jumper, you're not going to get damages for lost income. He's going to fix the jumper. How long is it going to take you?
Roughly about 2 days.
2 days. Piece of cake. $3,100. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I don't owe them anything. I didn't rent the bouncer
I'm just happy that we're going to have our bouncer repaired.
because they're money hungry.
They're looking for a payday.
The truth always comes out, and what's right is what's right.
So initially, after reading the papers, I thought the plaintiffs, while perfectly matched in their tops, were suing the wrong people because these people didn't sign the rental agreement. So any damage or any agreement to pay damage, I was with you from the beginning that these are the wrong people. It came out that they had a little bit more involvement, the defendant, than they wanted.
They agreed to pay.
Exactly. He knew he did the wrong thing. He probably saw his dog destroy the jumper from the kitchen window and felt bad and knew that it was his responsibility. I don't think that they deserve $9,000 for a brand new jumper, but they deserve to get it fixed and to keep making money off of it.
Right.
Case 2178, Glad versus Sawbird. All parties, please come forward.
Serenity Glad is suing her ex-girlfriend, Jennifer Sauber, for unpaid loans.
Ms. Glad, if my memory is correct, you are suing the defendant for a series of small loans that you claim she owes you for, and those loans were created, according to you, during a period of time that you and the defendant were either involved in a relationship and or engaged.
Yes.
How long do you know each other?
We've known each other since May of 2021.
And there came a time when the defendant came to live with you, or you went to live with the defendant?
I moved to Colorado to live with her.
And when was that?
That was in May of 2022.
When you moved in with her to Colorado, were you working?
Not at the time, no.
What kind of work did you do in Colorado?
I was unemployed.
How'd you support yourself?
A friend of the family helped me out due to my disabilities.
Who pays your rent?
The friend of the family.
Do you own a car?
I did.
Do you now?
No.
Are you working now?
Not at the moment, no.
Prior to that?
I was out in Colorado.
Working?
Yes.
For whom?
It was a local coffee shop.
Okay, irrelevant. What I want you to tell me is, from the point that you moved in, what loans do you claim you made to her?
I had paid part of a vet bill.
When was that?
That was at the end of May. I have the invoices here.
And what makes that a loan?
Because at the time she didn't have money and she had agreed to pay me back when she had gotten a job.
Did you agree to pay her back for this vet bill when you got a job?
No, ma'am. The friend of the family was going to pay for it all, but she insisted on paying it.
Tell me about that.
So in the vet office, I was messaging the friend of the family, and he was willing to pay it in full. And she was like, no, I'm going to pay for it. You need to quit asking him for money. I was like, he is the person that supports me right now. We do not have the money, so he's going to help us. She said that she would pay for half of it, I believe it was.
For half?
For half.
Okay.
So it was like $100.
How much was it?
$170.
Let's keep moving on.
I've been paying my data on my phone, and she keeps turning it off.
Given to her during their engagement.
Now, what other loans do you think she owes you for?
I had bought her tires for her car.
When?
That was on June 17th, I believe.
Were you using the car?
I was using the car.
Okay. For how long were you using the car?
About 2 months.
And what were you using the car for?
Getting to work.
So at that point, it was as much your vehicle as it was hers, because she wasn't working. So you took the car to work.
Yes.
And the car needed tires.
Yes.
And?
So I ended up paying for them just for safety reasons, given that.
Well, it's your safety. You were driving it.
That's
right?
True. Yes.
Let's move on. Next loan.
On top of that, I had to pay for vet insurance on the plan and just pay me.
You have your own animals?
No.
No. So after you left Colorado, when you were no longer a couple, did you request that she continue to pay for the vet insurance? That's either a yes or a no.
I don't remember.
Well, she says you did. How many months did you pay after you left Colorado? Show me. After you left her, you were no longer a couple. How many months did you pay?
I had ended up paying.
Just the months?
2 months.
And how much were those 2 months?
$71.46.
What's next?
After that, the biggest one is the phone that she has.
Tell me, when you got the phone, when she got a new phone, because I assume she had a phone, is that right?
I actually had just bought a brand new phone, and I insisted that I didn't need a new one.
What kind of phone did you buy?
iPhone 11 mini.
And?
I got the phone, and I have a hard time seeing, and I didn't have glasses, and I was like, it would be nice to have a larger phone. We actually originally went to get us on the same plan. I was going to keep my same phone, but I was looking at the phone. She was like, well, let's both just get new phones. I was like, that's not a good idea. She was like, well, let's just get them. It's fine. So I traded in my old phone for about $400, and we got the phone, and the agreement was, since I traded in my old phone, I still had to pay off the old phone because I just got it. So the agreement was I pay off my old phone, and to keep the service on, I would pay for my service and my data, and she would pay off the phone itself. That was our original agreement. And then a few weeks later, she's like, I never said that.
Okay. How much did you end up paying for her phone?
As of currently, there's $575 paid on her phone.
Do you still have that phone?
I do.
Can I see that there's $575 left on her phone? Not because you got two when you got new phones. So just hers.
I have this.
Is that for one phone?
That is
or
just
two?
for one phone, yes.
Okay, would you show this to the defendant, Kevin, please? And you have the phone?
I do.
And you're not paying for it?
I'm paying for the service, for what we
Service,
agreed
I'm
on.
not talking about service. That receipt is for one phone.
Yes.
It says, and what's still owing on the phone is $514. That's what it says.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And you have the phone?
I do.
Great. So $71.46 and $514 is $585. Anything else?
To this day, I am still paying for the data for that phone.
That's a lie.
Just a second.
I literally
Just a second. Cut off your data, let her get her own plan. She'll go in, she'll get her own plan. Right now, what's due and owing on the phone is $514. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been paying my data on my phone, and she keeps turning it off.
Just a second. I suggest you get a new plan. You have your phone, get another
I've
plan.
been trying to, but she keeps...
I can't help you with that.
I understand.
You know, I'm not one of those, what do they call them, geniuses?
Genius bar.
Yeah, I'm not a genius person. Not with phones anyway. Okay, $71.46 and $514. My math is almost correct. It's $585.46. That's what she owes you.
$400 of that is
We're
from
finished.
my old phone.
Judgment for the plaintiff. That's what she owes.
Okay.
That's what she owes on it. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm okay with it.
I do think it was a very fair hearing.
I'm okay with it because I, just want things to be all right between us because she's still my best friend and I still love her.
I mean, I feel the same way, I do love her. She's my best friend. Same exact thing. I just hope things smooth over.
So I think naturally when you're engaged to be married to someone or when you're married or even in a very serious relationship for a year, you don't keep a laundry list of expenses. I took you to dinner this night for our anniversary, here's your half. We went on vacation, here's your half. So it makes it that much more important when you're in a serious relationship like that because in the eyes of the law, those things are sort of a wash in a relationship. So if you believe that something is really a loan, that you've both decided as partners, I know we're together, I know we do things together that we both cover the expenses and pay for, but this $1,000 phone is outside the scope of that relationship. Let's just write something.
Damage after his car was vandalized.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2151, Martin versus Morale.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Martin, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been neighbors?
Moved into this subdivision in 2019.
That's how long you've been there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how long the defendant has been there?
I think 2014.
Is that right?
2017, Your Honor.
Oh, okay.
And where do you live in respect to one another? You want to go over there and show me?
I live in this house right here. Or I did. I don't anymore. This house right here. And she lives right here.
You sold your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the defendant
She lives right here.
Where the blue car is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's sort of a circular area, and from the circular area, you pull into your driveway. Is that right? Okay. It is your claim that the defendant keyed your car.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this happen?
January 22nd, 2022.
The defendant says that she did not key your car. She has a counterclaim. She claims that she was falsely arrested and held overnight in jail.
That is a lie.
But just a
Okay.
That's her claim, that she was falsely arrested, that she spent a night in jail. She had to hire a lawyer, did hire a lawyer after her lawyer requested several adjournments. You were not, at least physically, in the courtroom at the time of the last adjournment, and the case was dismissed. So let's go back to prior to January 22nd. I assume that if you're alleging that the defendant keyed your car, that you have some negative history with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
Starting when?
There are so many. I mean, it started out when we moved in the subdivision. They were nice at the beginning, no issues. And then the kids started having, her granddaughter lives with her.
Okay, how old's your granddaughter?
She's 9 now. She was 8.
Okay.
They started having some issues, as kids do. I mean, you know, that happens.
You have a child of a similar age?
Yes, ma'am. She's 11 now. She was 9 or 10 when we lived there.
And the 2 children had an issue?
I mean, you know, kids argue.
Between the 2 children spill over to the neighbors?
Well, I guess the final straw was Labor Day weekend of 21, the Sunday before the Labor Day. We came home late. It was about 7 o'clock. We were working, and we told Jillian we were going home for a little bit, and she said, I want to swim in the pool. So, all right.
Jillian is your 10-year-old?
Yes. And, of course, she said, well, that's boring, Daddy. I want a friend to swim with me. So I said, okay, 1 friend. That's it, because your brother's going to watch you, and then we're leaving to go back to work. So she goes next door to Patrick's house, which is the next-door neighbor, and she asked Patrick to come over and go swimming. He comes over. At the time, I didn't know this. At the time...
At the time, the defendant's granddaughter was there.
Yes.
At Patrick's house.
Yes.
Got it. So your daughter went over and invited Patrick to come and swim.
Right. And not...
You had told her that she could have 1 friend in the pool, so Patrick left to come swimming, leaving your granddaughter alone.
Well, she had to go home.
She had to go home.
Yes.
She came home.
Just a second. Okay. That's what happened. Okay. You had a grandchild who had hurt feelings. I assume
she actually went over to go swimming. She thought she was invited too.
You had a child with hurt feelings.
And I went to ask what had happened.
Okay.
That's this big hoopla.
Okay. Now, your grandchild comes home. I assume she was upset. Was she crying?
Yes.
Okay. And that was about what time?
In the evening. I honestly can't remember.
Okay. And when she came home crying, tell me what you did.
Went out and, honey, what's wrong?
What did you do?
Are you okay?
Yes, and she told you what happened.
She said, I went over to Jillian's. She invited us swimming. And when I got there, her dad said only 1 person could swim.
Okay.
So she came home.
Okay, and what did you do next?
That's not what happened.
I talked to her, calmed her down, and I went over and said, hey.
You know, just a second. You walked from your house with... If you do that again, I'm just going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that? And you know, it's easy.
I got it.
This isn't my case, it's your case.
I know.
So you walked alone to his house. Did you knock at the door? Did you go outside? I want you to tell me exactly what you did.
I don't remember if I went to the front door, if I went to where the pool is, and I do believe Mr. Martin was out there.
Okay, so Mr. Martin was out there, and you said it in that kind of a calm tone?
What happened to my granddaughter? Why is she crying?
Well, she told you why she was crying when she was home. She told you she was crying because she went over there to swim, and Mr. Martin said you can only have 1 person swim with you.
Which is totally out of character. The children swim together all the time.
You mean at Mr. Martin's pool?
At Mr. Martin's pool, and if they need another adult...
Just a second.
I go.
So they swim all the time in Mr. Martin's pool, so you wanted to know what happened on this occasion when he said only 1 person can swim.
Yes.
And you said it in just the same kind of conversational tone that I'm talking in, is my question.
I was very calm at the beginning, yes.
Oh, okay. And so you said to him what happened, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember exactly. It was to the effect of his son was going to watch them, and he could only have 1 child in the pool.
Right, that he wanted his son to have responsibility of only watching 1 other child other than his sister.
Correct.
Right, well, that sounds reasonable.
And that's fine.
Just a second. So how did it escalate? He said, I only wanted 1 child in here. My son's going to watch the kids. We have to go back to work. And that should have been it. Why wasn't it?
I don't know.
So I walked back out and looked at the Pathfinder, and that's what I discovered, the scratch across the back. Bright white, so that indicates it's fresh. I told her while she was standing there, you're going to jail, I'm going to call the police.
Okay.
Zachary Martin claims his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, keyed his car and owes for the repairs. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
Now let's get to your version of what happened. Okay, so you said only one child. Her granddaughter went home. Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
Just a second.
She did not come to my house.
If you say again it's a lie, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I asked you what happened.
She did not come to my house.
Okay.
Her daughter came to my house.
Just a second. You mean her granddaughter's mother?
Yes. I never talked to her.
Before my daughter went over, I had gone over.
She didn't.
Oh, no, just a second. Yeah. Now I don't believe you, Miss Morell. Now I don't believe you, madam. I watched your eyes. I just watched it. Now, uncross your arms. So, her daughter came over first.
No, I went over.
I don't want to hear you.
She never came over. The daughter came over. She bypassed my front door and went to the side gate where the pool is. She told my son to go get me.
To go get you?
To go get me. I came out and she called me a jerk. You should let her swim in the pool. Blah. I just told my daughter, look, you can have one friend because your brother's watching you. It's not fair for him now to watch 3 kids. Just 2, that's all. I told her, I said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I said she could have one friend and that's it. She proceeded to call me a jerk. She said some other choice words I'm not going to repeat, in which case I did cuss her out and told her to get off my property and not to come back again, anybody in her family, or I would file trespass charges.
Okay, and that was on the Sunday before Labor Day?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
January 22nd.
After that incident on Labor Day weekend, did you have any other contact with the defendant?
Yes.
When?
I think it was right after Jillian's birthday on November the 21st. I think it was like a week, like December the 1st, I think. And this is really sick, but it got to the situation where she would watch my kid. And every time my kid would go to Aubrey's house or Patrick's house, she would take toys, she would unpack her stuff. And I told her, I said, look, you can't play with her. So they would wait 10 or 15 minutes till she got unpacked and get all comfortable, having a good time. She would send her granddaughter over there. She had to pack her stuff up and come home. She would come home crying many times. So then it got to the point where Patrick, he would come over to our house. He'd be over to our house all the time. They would get on trampoline. Wait. She knocks on the door and she says, can we play? And I said, no, you can't play. Get off of my property. File trespass charges if you come back. That was, the last time I interacted with her. Until she keyed the video.
Well, it's not my job to be judgmental in a social way, but I have to tell you, I would have handled it a little differently with her. She wasn't the one who behaved badly. I wouldn't visit her daughter's bad behavior on an 8-year-old. There are kids who live right around the corner from each other, and it seems to me that the bad behavior of a parent or a grandparent shouldn't impact on a child. The granddaughter is a nice little girl.
Well, if you say so.
Is she?
Well, she spread rumors about my daughter and said that, she told Aubrey that my daughter stole some of her toys, and that was a lie.
Okay. All right. Well, it sort of started to get nasty. Now let's get back to the keying of the car. So that happened in January. So tell me about the January incident.
Okay. So she got up January 22nd. It's a Saturday. She decided to walk her dog. She's walked her dog.
Go over there. Show me what you saw.
Okay. So she decided to walk her dog, and so she walks up the sidewalk.
Well, you didn't see that.
No, not right here.
No, you didn't see that.
When she gets about right here, which is Patrick's house, the mailbox is right here, you can see in the video. That's when the cameras detect motion. That's when I get the alert. So I see her walking the dog, and she's walked her dog past my house many times, but never gotten that close to my vehicle. So immediately I thought something.
Where was your car?
My car is parked right here.
In the driveway?
Yes, ma'am. So she walks the dogs, and she is right beside the view. You can see in the video, you can see her right hand go up. So I immediately run out of the house. I have a truck parked right here. I looked at my truck. I thought maybe she did something to the truck. I looked at it, didn't see anything. I went back outside and I said, well, wait a minute, let me go back outside and look at the Pathfinder. So I walked back out and looked at the Pathfinder, and that's what I discovered, the scratch across the back. It's bright white, so that indicates it's fresh. I told her while she was standing there, you're going to jail, I'm going to call the police.
Okay, step back. When you said to her, you're going to jail, I'm going to call the police, did she respond?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, now I'd like to see the video.
Okay. You can see as her hand goes up right there.
I'll take a look at it again. Is there any reason that you stopped behind his car? Is there any reason?
Stopped to sniff, I stopped with him.
You see her right hand right there.
I'm moving my arm as I walk.
Yes, and that's where the scratch is.
Okay, can I take a look at the photographs of the scratch, please? Okay, so based upon what you saw, you called the police. And based upon that, the police came, interviewed you, and viewed this tape.
Actually, I had contacted the police after he had yelled at me. He's a little incorrect. Could I show you where?
Sure.
I did walk my dog around here. His cars impede the sidewalk, so I moved. And I had completed my whole route over to about here, and he did indeed come out and yell at me. I caught a few words of it, said I'm walking my dog, waved my arms, and continued on. That's not the first time he has yelled at me as I've been walking, and I went home and I filed an incident report, and I do have that.
Just a second.
The second time I've been walking and he's come out and yelled at me, it's very unnerving.
That's a lie.
We're very far.
Sorry.
It's going to cost you getting your car fixed. It's something you don't understand.
I have it.
Something you don't understand. I'm allowing both of you to tell me your sides of the story. You can't say that's a lie. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not cutting you off. I let you tell me your story, sir. I let you tell me what happened, and I want to give the defendant the same opportunity. You can't interrupt her. Now you fuffle with him, which you had, because he said you and your granddaughter, which I actually think was socially wrong with regard to your granddaughter. But with regard to you, he doesn't want you there, right? I wouldn't walk up a cul-de-sac to go past his house. If it were me, I see plenty of space where you can walk. You can cross the street from your house and walk in the street the other way. And then when you come back, you can walk the other way. You don't have to go inside that cul-de-sac to walk anywhere near his house. That's looking for trouble.
Can I just say something?
About what?
The trend that another gentleman, he tried to accuse of trashing his car.
Are you her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to let you stand up now, and you're going to show me where he accused somebody else of keying his car in the back in January. Show me.
Zachary Martin is accusing his neighbor, Nancy Morrell, of keying his car. Nancy is countersuing for a false arrest and lawyer fees.
So you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for false arrest. He didn't arrest you. The police arrested you. And the police arrested you based upon what they believed, after looking at that video, was probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe you participated in the commission of that crime, which is vandalism. He didn't make a citizen's arrest. The police made an arrest. And not only did they make an arrest, but they were serious enough to have you get a lawyer. Your counsel went in. I assume your new counsel asked for an adjournment. I assume your new counsel, you were there.
I believe so. I was not there, ma'am. I waited out in the hall, and my lawyer represented me.
Fine. So I assume that you knew that your lawyer was going to ask for an adjournment. The lawyer didn't prepare you for trial, did he?
No.
No.
Your Honor.
So he was. I'm not listening to you.
As a witness, can I just say something?
About what?
The trend that another gentleman, he tried to accuse of trashing his car. We have evidence of that.
Just a second. That I'll listen to in a minute.
Okay.
The second time your case was on, did you go into court or did you wait outside?
I waited outside.
Then if you waited outside, you knew again your lawyer was going to ask for. She was not there.
She was outside, yes, ma'am.
The second time when the case was adjourned, were you in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she there?
Yes, ma'am.
Outside or inside?
She was outside.
Did her lawyer ask for an adjournment?
Continuance.
A continuance?
Yes, ma'am.
Same thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it happen more than twice?
Yes.
On the third time you went to court, did you go to court?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Inside or outside?
She was outside, and what happened, I had sold the house, and we moved an hour away.
Just a second. You were there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'm going to let you stand up now, and you're going to show me where he accused somebody else of keying his car in the back in January. Show me. No. Well, this says that on January 18th, which was 4 days before this incident, you reported another vandalism to a Nissan Titan.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the car that you saw her key or believe she keyed?
No, ma'am, that's a different vehicle.
That's what I thought. That's a different vehicle. That has nothing to do with this car.
Well, the gentleman that he accused of, he didn't even have arrested or didn't want to press charges.
Just a second. Okay, so now I'm going to let you stand up, and I'm going to give you my end of the riot act. Because if this is what you're deluding yourself with, I'm going to tell you. He didn't have video of anybody on the 18th around his car. In your wife's case, sir, he had prior experience with her. She had no business walking right in front of the house when there are plenty of other places to walk. If they are not on great terms, he had every right to call the police, show them the video, and they had every right to arrest her. Trial is for, sir. That was up to a jury. What your wife is suing him for is for false arrest. He didn't arrest her. The police arrested her. Now sit. May I see the invoice? Have you had the car fixed?
Yes, ma'am. I have an estimate, and I also have the police report.
I'd like to see both. I'd like to see both. So the police officer indicated that after you were told about what the officer saw on the video, you've decided to make no more statements about the incident, and you were placed under arrest for malicious damage. The officer also reported that the scratch on the back of the car was fresh because there were fresh paint chips on the street that were red paint chips. There's a red car that came off that car, which demonstrates to the eyes of any layperson that since there's traffic back and forth there, if there are fresh scratches and fresh paint, it means it just happened. So your counterclaim for false arrest and anything addended thereto is dismissed.
I did not do it, Your Honor.
Right, well, okay, maybe. The case was dismissed. That doesn't mean you're entitled to money from him. Police had probable cause to believe that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe that you committed that crime. The rest of it is up to a jury. So you have a beef with the police department, not with him. They had an absolute right to arrest you. I'm not giving you $2,500 for this scratch, sir. Get it out of your mind. Do you understand?
Why not?
It's not a $2,500 scratch.
I mean, that's an estimate from a
$500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
Well, she was incorrect because I did not do it.
You know, we took an oath when we went inside to tell the truth, and she lied repeatedly, and she got mad at me when I said that's a lie, but it was a lie.
That he saw me walking by and looked at the car and said, oh.
The next day I called the police to see what happened, and they informed me they arrested her.
I thought they were there because I had called about him harassing me, and then all of a sudden they just said,
He does nothing but lie. She's a liar.
it was horrible.
I actually thought his behavior when the defendant brought her granddaughter over subsequently and said, can't she play? Because evidently there are 2 or 3 kids who live close by and they always play together. All of a sudden, the granddaughter is excluded from that play. There's a certain amount, as a parent, he should have had some sense of that and said, well, of course they can play, but your daughter owes me an apology. You know, if you're behaving like an adult, your daughter owes me an apology. I tried to do a responsible thing. I didn't want to let my son watch more than one stranger child in a pool, which is absolutely smart because, God forbid, something happened to one of those children, they would certainly turn around and sue him.
Yeah.
So he did the responsible thing. Was it hurtful to the other child? Yes. According to him, his daughter was playing at Patrick's house. She came over and said, you can't come, because they're little children. They don't understand. You can't come. Only one person can come. But you're a grown-up. So understand how that could be hurtful to an 8-year-old. Anyway, I think that they both behaved badly, and he's very smart to have moved out of that.
Out of the cul-de-sac, out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, could you understand why she would walk her dog there?
Yeah, I agreed with you that if you've already had even just a hint of distaste with any of your neighbors, I just walk on the other side of the street. Just avoid it. And this
the
seems
other way.
like a perfectly avoidable house in the cul-de-sac.
You actually have to
go into his loop in order to make the loop. So I don't know. I think both sides questionable, but I'm glad that he got something that you were willing to give him for his car.
Yeah, get your car fixed reasonably. And the police absolutely had a right to arrest her.
Yeah.
There was a complaint. They looked at the complaint. They saw the damage. They saw it was fresh. They saw her right there on the video. They had a history of bad.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2136, Dippenbrock versus Austin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dippenbrock.
Yes.
You bought a foal, which is a baby horse, in utero, which means that the horse had not yet had this foal, but you wanted to place an order for it, and Miss Austin is in that business.
Correct.
You entered into a contract. By the way, what is the gestation period of a horse?
Roughly 340 days.
And at what period in the horse's pregnancy did you enter into this contract with the plaintiff?
Roughly 3.5 months into the gestation.
Okay. Did you have a written contract?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to take a look at it because this is a contract action. And it is your claim that you made a substantial deposit, over $3,000, for the horse, that when the horse was born, it did not meet the specifications of this contract. You wanted your money back. The defendant says that's not true, that the horse did meet all of the requirements of this contract. The one specifically that you're referring to is something in this contract, which I will read, I assume, that says that the horse must be, once born, insurable within the first 2 days or 48 hours of its birth, and that this horse was not insurable within 48 hours, and therefore, it's in fact insurable. You say you can prove that because you did in fact get insurance on the horse within 48 hours of the horse's birth, and...
So...
No, don't... Your
of that
position is
statement
that you met the conditions of the contract.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The deposit for 25% of the purchase price, the seller agrees to hold the foal off market exclusively for the buyer until the foal reaches 48 hours old and is deemed insurable. Well, does that mean that foal is taken from the mother and transferred?
No.
So the foal stays with the mother until it's how old?
I choose to wean at 6 months because they seem to be better adjusted if you wait until that period.
Okay, and it's not that you can't get insurance, it's that a live, healthy foal is defined as a foal that is deemed insurable at 48 hours old. And if the mare fails to produce a live, healthy foal, then the buyer may request a refund of the deposit or a credit towards another purchase. Okay, so the foal was your case, your proof.
Okay. So I had to find out the foal was born through Facebook.
Okay, whatever.
Never notified me. And then I went to see the foal when it was a day old on Thursday.
1 day old?
I mean, well, not even 12 hours old, basically.
Okay, so it was not a day old. It was 12 hours old.
Correct, I'm sorry. 12 hours old. June 10th, she told me the vet would be out at 9:30 in the morning to do the routine foal exam. And I had requested to be notified of the results.
Just tell me about the contract. The foal is born alive and is how old now?
She turned 5 months old on the 9th of this month.
Have pictures of her?
I do.
I'd like to see. Oh, she's beautiful.
Thank you.
Have you seen her?
I have.
Recently?
No.
Would you show the plaintiff these photographs?
Yes.
Looks perfectly healthy to me.
I couldn't get insurance
Just a
when
second.
she was...
Just a second. Looks perfectly healthy to me. And I'm not an expert, but you would say that that horse looks pretty healthy.
Yes.
Okay, great. So now the horse is 12 hours old, and tell me the rest.
So at 48 hours old, I submitted the vet report to 8 insurance companies.
Let me see what you received.
Okay.
Did you furnish her with a report within 48 hours?
I furnished her with what the vet gave me. He did the vet exam at 24 hours old, but he had to draw blood and send it to a lab.
Okay.
And wait for that
Just
to
let
come
me.
back.
This first thing is dated June 12th, 2022. And this laboratory is sending the report to you, and it seems that they put the horse on a course of antibiotics initially for one day because something came back high. But it says, I do not believe all foals should automatically get antibiotics. However, I stand by our decision to treat what turned out to be a completely normal and healthy foal. We can pull follow-up labs to be sure, but her behavior since the blood sample backs up the lab results. Her behavior since the blood samples, what does that mean?
So for a foal to be considered doing well behaviorally, it needs...
What are you a doctor of, first time?
People. Internal medicine.
Okay.
For people.
Okay.
I brought an
You're the
expert witness veterinarian.
Okay. So now I have these test results, which I don't understand, and I'd like to see your reports from the insurance companies. How long was the foal on antibiotics?
She received 2 doses. One the day the vet came out, and then one the following morning before he got the blood test results back.
Which, when the blood test results came back,
they were normal.
They were normal?
Yes. And he said, don't give any more antibiotics. She does not need them.
And this report that you have from one insurance company, or from actually all of them, say underwriters have declined to provide coverage at this time and will reassess when the foal is off antibiotics. Well, the foal was off antibiotics within 2 days.
Mrs. Austin told me she was on antibiotics for 3 days, actually. And
Well, either 2 or 3 days, but then the test results came back normal.
The insurance companies, each of them will wait a certain amount of days. So that particular one wanted to wait 7 days to reassess after the foal had been off antibiotics. A few of the companies were 30 days, and I think one was 14 days.
Well, but that doesn't matter. All you need is one.
I was taking a risk with having an animal that's uninsured, and I wasn't ready to.
This is problematic for me. Because if I put a deposit down on something that I really wanted, and within 2 or 3 days, any question with regard to whether or not the animal was insurable or healthy, if my intention was to honor the contract, I would say, let's see if the results are normal or abnormal. Now, the results came back that the foal was perfectly healthy. So unless you had, in my views,
I signed the contract based on the fact that she could be insured. The year before, I purchased another in utero, and that foal was insured at 24 hours old, and with the same type of contract. I wasn't going to enter
that's
into
all right,
a contract.
but that's all, you understand what I'm saying to you.
Understand,
You understand what I'm saying to you, because my problem is, after I made the deposit, according to you, some things came to my attention that gave me anxiety. This is before the foal was even born. I learned about several of plaintiff's horses that had to be put down. She had horses that were unsound, lame, and missing eyes. Her young horses were jumping and running in paddocks with huge boulders. I also found out that she tried to sell the mare that was pregnant with my foal to a friend of mine. It was unsettling.
Correct.
Right. So I'm trying to just put this in chronological order for myself to understand whether there was a true breach of this contract. You have the count.
Diane Deppenbrock is suing horse breeder Jessica Austin for the deposit on a horse. Jessica is countersuing for breach of contract.
The foal is born on the 9th of June.
Correct.
Was given a dose of antibiotics on the dose of antibiotics in the morning of the 11th.
Correct.
The blood results come back on the 12th, which indicates that the horse was totally normal, and you advised her, correct? That the
I
test
immediately
result...
forwarded the email to her, correct.
Okay. Now, the foal is 50 hours old, and you're told that the foal is totally healthy. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with your position that there was a material breach of this contract. I think that a perfectly healthy horse was born, and it was within a reasonable period of time, may not have been 48 hours, but if they were being very cautious in starting the course of antibiotics, you're the vet. Stand up and tell me if I'm not seeing something. The vet who saw the horse, was that you?
It was not.
Okay. Evidently decided that to be very cautious, they would await the blood test result on the horse on the baby and start a course of antibiotics that could be stopped if the blood tests came back normal, which they did within a day. Oh, I don't think that there's been a material breach of this contract by the defendant. I think that you're obligated. If she wanted specific performance, that's fine, but you're not entitled to your deposit back.
I have an email from the insurance company from the 21st when she finally told me that the foal was insured.
Just a second.
I can't take that risk for 2 weeks on an animal.
No.
Get insurance on.
No. But your problem is, it wasn't 2 weeks. Your problem determined whether that was a material breach of the contract. Certainly, if the lab results came back that show that there was any deficiency in the horse, I would say absolutely you're entitled to your deposit back. But they did not. They came back and they said that a vet wanted to be very cautious, but the vet turned out to be wrong.
My contract didn't state anything about a vet.
I'm telling you, I don't find that one day was a material breach of the contract, because if you had then on the third day sent the normal blood test results out to the same insurance company, the insurance company would have found that the horse was insurable.
They wouldn't, because they wanted to wait 7 days until the horse was off antibiotics.
Then you wait 7 days. That's still not a material breach. She's not asking you for the rest of the money.
So if something would have happened in those 2 weeks, I would have been out $9,000.
That is not
just a second.
accurate.
You were not. You weren't going to take the horse until the horse was 6 months old.
I wasn't going to take the horse if it wasn't if it couldn't be insured.
Well, it could be insured. It turned out that the vet was cautious and you were wrong. And I believe that you had already made a decision in your mind.
I had not already made a decision.
Well, I find that there's not a material breach. You don't get your deposit back.
Costs and another $100 to file the counterclaim.
For your lawyer's costs for what?
When I originally got the notification from the court, I got kicked in the head by a horse on July 4th, and they had done testing. I'm out of work. They said I have a cognitive deficit that they're working.
What does that have to do with what you want? I mean, I'm sorry about that, but what does
I
that
obtained a lawyer to represent me in court because I didn't know if I would be capable of representing myself.
Oh. Well, but you are perfectly capable of representing yourself. You don't get your deposit back. So now you have a perfectly healthy horse that you can sell, and hopefully sell for the same amount that you sold it to the plaintiff for, and pay your attorney's fees. Do you understand? Because she lost her deposit. I don't think that there was a material breach of a contract with an extra 1 day to get normal lab results back. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
As the judge read from the contract, as the seller, I assumed all risk on the foal until she was 6 months old.
Put a lot of money to make an investment in, and you want to make sure that your assets are covered and that the horse can be properly taken care of if something does come up.
Therefore, the argument that the buyer would lose anything if something happens to the foal is inaccurate.
I'm really happy with the 2 horses that I have, and I'll continue to stick with the ethical breeders that I know.
And the insurance that we obtained was based on the exam at 24 hours old. Therefore, we have proven that we...
When the vet came out first and when the results came back, the horse was born on a Friday, and then the vet came out Saturday, and I was surprised that any lab sent labs back on a Sunday. So in a business that's so dependent on something you can't control when the horse is going to give birth, why would the defendant put in her own contract a 48-hour, such a tight window for insurability for the horse? Maybe it's standard practice. I don't know standard practices for horses or anything like that. But
you're right, it's a tight window. And my guess is, although I could have asked the question, probably standard in that industry, I'm not sure. But it's interesting to note that in contract law, unless time is of the essence, there has to be some sort of material breach. And, in this case, if the defendant had not had a vet come out and look at the horse for a week, well, that's a different story. She had a vet come out immediately. The vet was super cautious. Vet turned out to be ultimately, thankfully, mistaken that there was nothing wrong with the horse. Got a clean blood test, but the plaintiff had already determined that she had buyer's remorse with regard to this deal. There was another agenda there because the horse looked beautiful as it turned out, 5 months old, and a beautiful animal, and it was perfectly.
Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với những vlog tô màu của mình. Hôm nay thì mình cùng với các bạn sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về nàng tiên cả Ariel nha. Đây là bức tranh của mình ngày hôm nay. Các bạn hãy cùng mình tô màu cho bức tranh này thật đẹp nhé. Trước tiên thì mình sẽ dùng màu xanh để tô cho những cái phần mật bong bóng, hay còn gọi là mật tỉn. Để mình sẽ tô đến những cái phần rong biển ở phía dưới. Rồi mình sẽ tô đến là tinh cá nhé. Mái tóc thì chắc chắn là màu đỏ rồi. Giờ mình tô chiếc đuôi của đàn tinh cá nha mọi người. Đã. Chưa tới giờ. Chiếc áo, mình sẽ tô đến chiếc áo mà đàn tinh cá mặc nhé. Rồi thì mình sẽ tô đến cái phần vỏ sò mà là cái cá nó nằm lên. Bức tranh của mình đã được hoàn thiện xong rồi nha. Cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi những video tô màu của mình. Và hãy ủng hộ mình ở các video tiếp theo nữa nhé. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn nha. Tạm biệt.